In the spacious hotel, there were many delicious dishes colorfully arranged on the tables. Although Ju Hyun did not participate, he somehow knew some information in advance. Jae-ha would eat and drink the most expensive dishes and the teams would have to pay for them all. He was even planning what to eat there. In fact, before meeting the excavators, Jae-ha spent a while on his phone, scrolling through a list of delicious dishes to choose from. Sometimes he would say with excitement, "I have to go on a date to this famous crab restaurant." Back at the banquet table, the excavators sat across from Jae-ha. Ju Hyun continued to think, of course there was no reason, we weren't aiming for free food. Jae-ha and the enemy would spend time over food and some barley smoothies. Jae-ha would pretend to chat and extract information from them. It was obvious that Ju Hyun understood Jae-ha's movements very well. Ju Hyun continued, they would have to open their mouths to deal with Jae-ha. That way they would be able to reveal some important information. On the other side, Lee Seol-ah installed a recording device and Seol-ah will record everything when she's done. So delicious, Jae-ha contentedly rubbed his round belly happily. The phone on the table suddenly vibrated, he was extremely surprised, there was this phone. Pick up the phone and answer the phone, hello, Captain. Something urgent, oh my god, how could something like this happen to me? Hearing Jae-ha's words, the excavators sitting opposite him gritted their teeth in tension. After saying that, Jae-ha's face was very urgent, he slammed his hand on the table and stood up impatiently. I'll go right away, an excavator asked, where are you going? Everyone was in a difficult mood, you have to trade the family heirloom with us, Jae-ha casually proposed, sorry, something urgent happened. Jae-ha smiled with satisfaction and promised, talk to you later. The whole excavation team stood up in shock, clinging to each other in amazement, hey, where is he, damn it, he's gone. The whole hotel seemed to explode from the roar of them when they realized they had been tricked, he tricked us, damn it. Jae-ha successfully appeared and disappeared, and Ju Hyun had predicted it. Jae-ha had prepared the holy relic to escape, and he wouldn't be caught, we'll do the same to the other teams too. The plan was a complete success and back to Ju Hyun's room, I didn't think many groups would be trapped like that at first, and we got a lot of benefits from this plan, one of them. The desire to rob treasures from us has decreased significantly, as some of them prefer to negotiate. It's really beneficial, many excavation teams that bring monsters over choose to fight for treasures. Just 1 or 2 members would be enough to suppress them, he was extremely confident. Jae-ha finished the report, that's all I'll report, Ju Hyun praised, okay, good job. Lee Seol-ah and Jae-ha comfortably listened to Ju Hyun's instructions, just relax and get ready for the next job, got it, Jae-ha agreed, okay, Ju Hyun teased, it's smooth. Suddenly Ju Hyun opened his mouth to summon, hey, crow, come out. The crow appeared on his shoulder and asked, what's wrong, Ju Hyun suggested, let's talk. The crow understood and jumped down from the table to face Ju Hyun to hear the information clearly. I'm quite free now, so I'd better plan for the future. And for that, I need your knowledge. Ju Hyun stared at the crow as if he was asking for a debt, answer honestly, where is your body? The crow wondered why, Ju Hyun replied, you never told me. His body was about to stand up from the chair, but his mouth still didn't stop talking, even though I signed the contract, I still can't completely own you, how long do you think I can endure this situation? Ju Hyun stood up straight and crossed his arms in front of him, saying, and I also want to control all the treasures, hearing that the crow questioned, so he wanted to find my body, thank you very much for that. He rolled his eyes solemnly at the words the raven uttered, the holy relics of the 7 crypts, that was the key to this. In the room Ju Hyun the atmosphere was quite tense facing the crow who was enthusiastically sharing information, the key was in the holy relics of the 7 tombs, Ju Hyun suddenly stopped wondering, the key. The crow's eyes became brighter than usual, it was extremely immersed in the story it was telling, at that time the place we were in was called the prison, there were many other prisoners besides me. He was surprised by the crow's words, and that was where his real body was. The 7 tombs are the key to opening the dungeon, the crow said. Ju Hyun was deep in thought, really? Ju Hyun's mind was filled with questions, he questioned the crow first, it wasn't a normal tomb, he had to get the holy relic from 7 new tombs and that was it. That tomb was also full of traps, and the holy relic I brought with me was not functioning properly. Ju Hyun was somewhat worried from his previous experience. The crow continued, isn't it obvious, that tomb is used to lock up the holy relics, so it is designed to restrain the holy relic's power. His hand clenched the hem of his shirt and he cursed under his breath, that damn Chairman Kwan, is that why he chose that mausoleum? He spoke calmly without any particular emotion, but I was curious, how many strong prisoners were locked up there? The crow's cry rang out, there were countless powerful the holy relics there, including the holy relics of the lords, so Ju Hyun was startled, the lords, the crow added, the lords and the myths. Don't you think it's weird? The holy relics are based on human stories, but there are no holy relics from famous stories, like Zeus in Greek mythology, the crow mused. Thinking about it for a while, it makes sense, you're right, Ju Hyun replied. He ran his hand over his chin, pondering, and the Egyptian lords were like the holy relics he had. The crow's voice interrupted, but I don't think you'll find the god. He suddenly sobered up and retorted, wait. Isn't that the person who swallowed him? The crow shyly changed the subject, let's talk about something else. It doesn't matter what it's about, the world of the holy relic is in a terrible state right now. The crow tried to act like he was fine, but deep inside his tears were a vast ocean when facing Seo Juhian's judging gaze. Suddenly the crow stressed, the winner of the conflict between the holy relics is dominating the holy relic world, the holy relics who oppose them are sent to prison. The whole room resounded with the crow's monotonous voice. Since then the relationship with humanity and the holy relic became serious. If this continued, they would destroy the order of this world. So you must become the king, the crow demanded, his hand waving in a refusal. Wait. Juhian still didn't understand the plot of the story, so he expressed his doubts. Why is it suddenly so large in scale? What is the world order? The crow looks down on him. I don't think you will understand. Seeing the crow becoming more and more defiant, he glanced at it and warned it to reply, to be honest, I just want to take revenge on Chairman Quan, collect the holy relic, eat delicious food and live in peace. Chairman Quan has a very deep relationship with Pandora. Pandora is actually an organization founded by the holy relics who won that conflict, the crow said calmly. Juhian impatiently slammed his hand on the table and pressed his face close to it tensely. The organization founded by the holy relic? What do you mean? The crow confirmed, yes, they tried to expand their power by taking advantage of humanity. Seo Juhian's face gradually began to sweat with worry. Fighting Chairman Quan meant fighting Pandora, and he was also indirectly fighting against the holy relics that won that conflict. The crow concluded with understanding, in the end our goals are the same. Seo Juhian understood and replied, I understand. So we still need to find the holy relic of the 7 tombs. We have 5 of the 7 of them, you asked. Yes, we just need to find the mundane and greedy the holy relic, the crow calmly replied. After a while, it spoke up again to introduce itself. The gluttonous holy relic was a large spider that I had met countless times. Seo Juhian had also had the opportunity to meet the spider and agreed with the comment, that guy was very troublesome. He continued to stroke his chin and think of the next policy. If so, I have to take greed first. Okay, I will have to find a way to know where and when the tomb containing greed will appear. Suddenly Seo Juhian clenched his fist and turned to walk away with determination. I will go find him right away. The sky is blue, the clouds are floating gently above. Seo Juhian leisurely walked into the warehouse with the management key. He lazily put his hands in his pockets and politely greeted, hello, Hyung Nim. Oh Sungwoo heard Juhian quickly approaching the door, his face a bit panicked. Juhian was the first to ask, long time no see, how are you? I came here to see my best friend, the King of Destiny. Oh Sungwoo scratched the back of his neck and awkwardly replied, the King of Destiny, him. Oh Sungwoo stuttered and couldn't form a coherent sentence. That matter had a bit of a problem. He said he was going out for some fresh air, but he hasn't come back yet. So Juhian suddenly reacted, what? Hearing the situation, he rushed out and called out to Hyung Nim in surprise. Suddenly, a thought flashed through my mind. Suddenly, the thought of him regaining consciousness flashed through my mind. After our trip to the holy relic was taken away to the royal tomb, something like that could happen, he thought. On the street, Joshua hurriedly ran forward, panting as he ran. He happily exclaimed, finally, he escaped. No, is this right? I betrayed my friend who has been by my side for more than 30 years. Suddenly in the middle of the street he covers his face and talks to himself. Passers-by saw a noisy scene and paid attention. No, that's a lie. I'm not 30 yet. I don't feel close to them. Joshua helplessly sweated as he looked at his hand, confused. What did Seo Juhian do to his memories? Was the memory that popped into his mind a real memory? I must return to Pandora, he thought. Suddenly Joshua was stopped by 3 men and asked, are you the King of Destiny? Yes, you are the one on that prophetic program. The man in the lead suddenly asked, I want you to follow us, come on. Joshua startled and asked back, what, who are you guys? The man did not answer his identity and said it was not important. What is important is that you have a bounty on your head, Joshua stammered, a bounty on your head. Yes, Pandora has a bounty on your neck, the man said, making Joshua flinch. Pandora, don't joke with me. The man questioned, then why did you get caught by Seo Juhian and betray Pandora? Joshua gritted his teeth and repeated, betrayal. Without hesitation, he turned around and left, causing the men to be surprised and call out, hey, catch him. Joshua ran on the street shouting, save me, don't run. 3 men quickly chased after him. A hand suddenly shot out to stop the chase. People on the street stopped and asked, what are you doing? Why are you chasing him? The man replied, he is not an ordinary person, he is wanted. Joshua was still charging forward with all his might. The man impatiently chased, don't you know that the King of Destiny is a traitor? Move aside. I don't know about that, but perhaps you are the ones who are wanted. With the aggressive attitude of 3 men held tight by the people, Joshua happily thought to himself, he escaped thanks to them, he must find a safe place. The feet did not stop for a second as they ran into a deserted alley. Feeling a bit safe, he stopped to catch his breath. Pandora wanted me, what does that mean? Joshua took his phone out of his pocket and was shocked. We are on the same side, why did they do that? It's a lie, why are there so many newspapers saying that he betrayed Pandora? Joshua fell into a state of trembling confusion beyond belief. He fell to the ground helplessly, cursing, damn it, where can I run? What's going on? I'll check again. Joshua hadn't calmed down after all the unexpected things that happened, so he quickly picked up his phone to confirm again. On the newspaper was a picture of Joshua, he said. Because of his prophetic broadcast, Pandora couldn't track down Seo Ju-hyun. So Seo Ju-hyun has a monopoly. All the treasures that have been released are currently being managed by Seo Ju-hyun. All the excavation teams have tried to take the treasures back but have always failed. Joshua read each line of the news with wide eyes in utter amazement. Crazy, is it true? Joshua did not notice a foot approaching him from afar. Seo Ju-hyun looked at the prey in front of him and greeted, honey, you're here. Joshua was startled and couldn't hold the phone firmly, letting it slowly fall. With a fierce gaze and a murderous smile, Seo Ju-hyun asked first, why did you suddenly run away from home? I was worried, but did you run away because you suddenly thought of some strange memories? Did you remember that you and I had a big conflict? Joshua stiffened his face in fear and cursed in his mind, damn, is he following me? No, maybe he just arrived, if that's the case then. Joshua used a pitiful trick to distract, Captain, you finally found me, I lost my way back. Hearing that, Seo Ju-hyun also cried out in surprise. I didn't expect you to come looking for me yourself, how touching, he exclaimed. From afar Sung-woo ran up in surprise, you found him. Seo Ju-hyun agreed with the suspicion, but he had a little. In Joshua's mind he was thinking, Pandora had abandoned him, and Seo Ju-hyun had monopolized all the family heirlooms. If this is the case, even though he thought a lot, on the outside he is extremely scared. I have no choice but to side with Seo Ju-hyun, he thought to himself. Joshua's eyes kept darting around trying to figure out a way to save his life. He had to continue pretending to be brainwashed. Had he fooled him? Damn it, he wasn't sure. Sung-woo suddenly called out, what's wrong Hyung-nim? Seo Ju-hyun responded, no, I just find him a bit strange. It was a bit quiet, he said his doubts, making Joshua tensely curse in his heart, damn it, he suspected me. He hurriedly stood up and explained his actions, I was just a little tired while looking for my way back, now that I've met you I can rest a bit, really, Seo Ju-hyun looked in disbelief. Let's go home, there's something I need you to predict, Seo Ju-hyun suggested. Yes, Joshua hurriedly obeyed. Not reacting in time, he was curious, but what should I predict about the next 7 tombs, especially the tomb of gluttony? Seo Ju-hyun was mysterious but did not reveal. The sky was turning dark, the whole city gradually turned on the lights. His dream, without prophecy, was of him sitting on a cushion on the floor in Joshua's room, hazy. The sound of the door opening was accompanied by the question, are you awake? A foot slowly approached Joshua warningly, quickly tell me, where and when will the greedy tomb appear? That matter, he was afraid to stammer. The prophecy of that matter has not yet appeared, Joshua said a sentence. Seo Ju-hyun looked at Joshua with a warning gaze and questioned, did you remember and find a way to hinder my plan? He was startled and quickly objected, no, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm telling the truth. Joshua rushed up and hugged Ju-hoon's leg tightly after Ju-hoon's warning, he begged him not to touch him, no way. I'll call Ilya and manipulate your memories again. Joshua was afraid, don't do that, I really don't remember anything. Seo Ju-hyun tensed up hearing the information coming out of Joshua's mouth. At this point he was forced to tell the truth, I think that the crypt had disturbed the dream and prevented the prophecies from reaching him, or that crypt would not have appeared. Seo Ju-hyun judged, it seems like the case of the royal tomb again. Yes, it's like that, Joshua agreed. In the room Ju-hoon kept making difficult comments, there must be something preventing the formation of the tomb. At this rate, I guess I won't be able to take over greed anytime soon. The crow that appeared on his shoulder said, perhaps the leaders used their power to prevent the tomb from forming. Ju-hoon asked in disbelief, how could they do that? The holy relic world is in chaos right now, maybe that could happen, the crow replied, damn it, Seo Ju-hyun cursed under his breath. Back to the main character being questioned, Ju-hoon spoke up, okay, let's try another way, okay, Joshua quickly agreed. Suddenly he was stunned when he saw Seo Ju-hyun was having doubts, but I have some doubts, don't you remember anything? Joshua objected, I said no. On the other side, on a high rock, Jin Chaiwon felt someone approaching from behind and quickly asked, why did you want me to come here? A voice replied from afar, I told you, I'm too lazy to go alone. Furthermore, there was a reason for this, the foot and voice slowly approached Jin Chaiwon. Rothschild put his hands in his pockets and calmly said, I told you to come because he called me. I didn't expect you to come on time, his eyes flashed with interest. Jin Chaiwon explained his actions, you are Pandora's boss, Rothschild quickly warned, keep your mouth shut, you are just a sacrificial pawn. Rothschild warned, I'm talking to your master, he has given me quite a lot of information about the higher level holy relics. In return Chaiwon simply exclaimed. Jin Chaiwon crossed his arms and questioned, why did you call me here? We agreed not to bother each other. I can't stop it, there's something we need to do. There is a greedy holy relic hiding there, we must stop him from building the tomb. He said. Why? Chaiwon wondered. To prevent So Ju-hyun from taking him, we must act before it is too late, Rothschild explained. Jin Chaiwon questioned, just like that, demanding that the holy relic not build a tomb. After all, So Ju-hyun couldn't collect all the holy relics of the 7 tombs. Because one of them is me, and he is not capable of controlling me, Chaiwon criticized. Damn it, you are still too arrogant. What if you fail? Rothschild did not trust and retorted. Chaiwon confidently sneered in response. Failure? You said I would fail. Maybe you've been in the human world for too long and become stupid. Rothschild on the other hand was still trying to argue. Think about it, if Seo Ju-hyun was captured by the greedy holy relic, he wouldn't bother you, right? That's right, Chaiwon was a bit hesitant, and Rothschild finally compromised. Okay. There was a humming sound in the cave. Suddenly a loud noise was heard as a human body was destroying the cave to enter. A bright light emitted an unknown object. It said with pleasure, I must make this place full of traps, probably don't need to repaint this wall, huh? Then the object exploded with a loud bang, releasing a powerful burst of power. It would be beautiful if painted with human blood. Jin Chai-won and Rothschild's feet stepped towards the cave. Stop, Rothschild frowned and ordered uncomfortably. Seeing 2 people coming at the same time is unbelievable. Who are you 2? Why didn't you contact me first? He wondered, is the high-level holy relic now tending to use human bodies? The holy relic stopped him from saying, wait. Okay, this should do it. The holy relic transformed back into human form and spoke. The greedy holy relic Mammon girl greeted with a seductive smile and asked, what are you 2 doing here? The greedy holy relic Mammon. I told you, I will decorate this tomb even better, Mammon said his plan. No need, Rothschild refused the undeserved kindness. Mammon's eyes teased as he twirled a lock of hair and said, but. Since his tomb would not be made public, he frowned and spoke. Mammon was startled by the explanation from Rothschild, do not build it. Mammon asked in disbelief, what are you talking about? What do you mean, not building a tomb? He confirmed once more, yes, at least for now, when I'm done, you can build as many as you want. So when will it be done? Mammon asked. Who knows, Rothschild replied. Jin Chai-won naturally commented with an unfriendly look. The greedy holy relic jumped up and questioned, meaning I have to wait until someone tells me to build it, meaning my crypt is delayed indefinitely. Mammon still did not believe the information he had just received. There was no such law, the holy relics had the right to build their own tombs. He was right, but now he could not. Rothschild interrupted the holy relic's train of thought. Mammon asked in disbelief, what are you talking about? What do you mean, not building a tomb? He confirmed once more, yes, at least for now, when I'm done, you can build as many as you want. In the worst case, if he catches you, you will have a bad influence on us. Rothschild brought up difficulties to stop Mammon's actions. On the contrary, Mammon heard this and became more agitated. What, do you think I will lose to him? Rothschild gave a specific number. 5 out of 7 the holy relics have been captured by him. I am not like those idiots. Mammon spoke more and more excitedly. Speaking of the 7 tombs, have you forgotten the promise you made in exchange for me helping you seal the prison? Don't go back on your word. One of them was to allow us to build a huge tomb wherever we want, Mammon vehemently retorted. Seeing Mammon's extremely determined attitude, Rothschild also lost his patience. Suddenly, Prometheus's voice appeared beside Jin Chai-won. I knew it, it's hard to talk properly with you. What will you do? Asked the Rothschilds. I will have to use another way, replied Prometheus, furious. Hearing that, Mammon was terrified, his eyes widened and he cried out, you. Prometheus's body gradually darkened, the power accumulated in his palm directed towards Mammon as he warned, you really don't want me to build a 1-star mausoleum, and you're allowed to do so. Think that you are sacrificing yourself for a greater cause. Mammon fell to the floor in fear listening to Prometheus' every word. Damn it, I don't care, Mammon stood up with a firm voice. There was a noise like an earthquake in the cave. Let's congratulate the king of predators Seo Ju-hyun. Suddenly a congratulatory sound rang out in Ju-hyun's company. Oh Sung-woo helplessly looked at Joshua who was going crazy. Okay, let's shout, long live Seo Ju-hyun, be happy because I'm following the king of predators. Ilya's exclamation echoed, the king of predators, I have to attract his attention, if I can do it then my memory won't be manipulated anymore. Seo Ju-hyun suddenly thought, the great king of predators, Joshua kept exclaiming. Ilya asked disparagingly, why is he so noisy? Ju-hyun didn't have a definite answer, who knows? Ilya asked, is it really necessary to manipulate his memories? Seo Ju-hyun replied vaguely, well let's just observe first and then think about it later. He was about to leave the room, his hand on the doorknob when Ilya's question came through. Do you like your name, the king of predators? Pandora changed our names, didn't she? Small note, Seo Ju-hyun is the king of predators, Yu Jae-ha is the king of martial arts, Julian Miller is the king of usurpers, Ilya Volkov is the king of demons, Lee Seol-ah is the king of hell, Chloe is the king of healers. Looking at the information, Ju Hyun said with interest, "The King of Prey, sounds strong, I like it too," Ilya interestingly agreed, "and I am this Demon King, sounds cool too." Going back outside, Ilya asked curiously, "But why was the deputy captain named the King of Usurpation?" Ju Hyun couldn't guess the answer either. Who knows, maybe it was because of something that happened in the royal tomb. But in the end, I still didn't get any clues about the Tomb of Greed. I'm quite free now. I'm thinking about how to spend this time. Seo Ju Hyun let out a sigh and said in his mind. In his account it was known, but I did not have to think too long. Since we just had a problem recently, we don't know what unexpected thing happened, but Seo Ju Hyun was struggling in pain to stop the bleeding from the wound on his neck. A moment later, it was getting dark and many buildings were lit up. At this moment, Lee Seola was leaning against a tree, looking intently at her phone while waiting for Seo Ju Hyun. Suddenly, he appeared from behind. Then, he approached the tree where Seola was standing. Seeing that, she immediately scolded him. "You're 4 minutes late," Ju Hyun smirked and replied, "It's not that long." He continued, "Using this body is really difficult, I need more time and effort." His face showed worry and fear. He turned to Seola and said, "I can't do this forever, it's difficult." Then Seola could only glance over with a cautious look, to see how the situation was, but they probably wouldn't be fooled like this forever. And then the two of them continued walking together, discussing. Seola said, "Let's talk to the captain later," then Ju Hyun replied, "Okay. I heard he was going to meet the King of Fate and wondered when he would be back." Both of them were worried when they found out that something was about to happen. Alertness appeared in Seola's eyes. Ju Hyun turned to look at her and then also felt something bad was about to happen ahead. He said to Seola, "I felt it somewhere." She replied very quickly, "What is it?" Suddenly, a masked man came from somewhere and quickly rushed in front of Ju Hyun, using a knife to stab him in the neck. Blood flowed out a lot, splattered everywhere. Seola was surprised by the bloody scene that just happened and she called out Yoo Jae-ha's name loudly. Ju Hyun, who Jae-ha played, collapsed, clutching his neck, stopping the bleeding and screaming, "Damn it, my throat." Gildal suddenly appeared behind Seola and said in surprise, "What is it?" She replied, "I'm being attacked, maybe he'll attack again, I have to prepare." Gildal felt relieved and told her that it was a good thing she was here. Seola replied, "I didn't see that stranger, but maybe he's still nearby." Ju Hyun suddenly woke up, screaming. Seola was surprised because she didn't expect him to recover. She gasped in panic and stuttered, Are you okay?" Jae-ha immediately took off the mask, saying the disguise was broken. It turned out that under the mask was Yoo Jae-ha. Then Seola asked Jae-ha in surprise, "How did your wound heal?" Jae-ha happily replied, laughing, "This is the power of the family heirloom." Seola asked again, "Can you use the holy relic?" Jae-ha affirmed of course, quickly used the holy relic to run away from this place. Both of them used the holy relic to escape from that place. The stranger saw them escape. The stranger's eyes were sinister, as if he had discovered something. Back in the room, Jae-ha told the captain, "Brother, I'm tired." In the same room the captain and Ilya returned. He said, "We did the right thing." Jae-ha suddenly turned back and replied, "Oh, you're back, Captain." Yoo Jae-ha stood in front of Ju Hyun and said loudly, "I'm in big trouble." Ju-hoon panicked, "You scared me." Then Ju Hyun looked at Jae-ha and calmly asked, "What's wrong with you? Did you eat something?" Jae-ha emphasized, "No, it's not that, it's my blood." Jae-ha proved in front of the captain that I was stabbed in the neck on the way. Luckily I came back alive. Seola came to Jae-ha's side and defended her. Since she was the one who witnessed everything, she gently told the captain that he was right. "We were attacked on the way here." Seola recounted everything that had just happened. Her voice was sharp. It seemed like that guy used the holy relic very quickly and powerfully. If he had taken the full blow, he would have been seriously injured if he hadn't died. Captain Ju-hoon responded and asked Jae-ha, "That's amazing, so how are you still alive?" Jae-ha replied that he was still alive thanks to the Phoenix treasure. Seola speculates that the stranger who attacked her is an assassin targeting the captain, because when Jae-ha was attacked, it was because he was pretending to be the captain. Ju-hoon also guessed and replied to Seola that it was possible that instead of trying to steal the treasure, he chose to kill the owner. Ju-hoon discussed with his teammates and talked about the current situation. "It's quite troublesome, now we have to try to find out what kind of the holy relic that assassin used." Ilya said, "Yes." Seola said, "I will tell you what I saw and experienced." After Seola finished speaking, Ju-hoon thought that this plan would probably work, and Jae-ha said, "I will go take a shower and change clothes." The meeting continued. Captain Ju-hoon enjoyed a cup of hot coffee and continued to discuss work with his teammates. He curiously asked Seola if she only sensed a little bit of his presence. Seola replied yes, and Jae-ha noticed it before me. Suddenly Jae-ha returned to the meeting room. As soon as he opened the door he said, "I felt like I had felt it before." Ju-hoon asked in surprise, "Is that so?" Jae-ha replied with a confident tone, "I must have felt it somewhere when I attended the Holy Relic exhibition in Russia." The reason he spoke so confidently was because while taking a bath he tried to remember something that had just happened. Ju-hoon was recalling each event that happened. asking Jae-ha if it was the event when Jae-ha came to his royal family. Jae-ha also gradually remembered that day, right, there was also terrorism there. Jae-ha recalled the event that day, many royal families died, including the fake person I created. He also added, this faint assassin aura was quite similar to what I felt at that time. Captain Ju-hoon crossed his arms and thought deeply, maybe it was the same guy. He asked Jae-ha again, do you remember anything about this assassin? Jae-ha recalled, recounting what happened to that hidden person. At first, I thought he would start acting when it got dark. He attacked in the dark with extreme speed. Jae-ha continued, judging from the injuries on me and that royal, he probably used a knife. Jae-ha's words made Ju-hoon even more suspicious. Ju-hoon discussed with his teammates about his suspicions. I thought about a few things but wasn't sure. The holy relic assassins were usually associated with darkness and were very fast. Jae-ha asked, so what do we do now? The conversation between Ju-hoon and Jae-ha continued. Ju-hoon curiously asked Jae-ha, did you survive the assassin's attack? Jae-ha hesitantly replied, yes, although I did. Ju-hoon presented a new plan to Jae-ha, he said, to find his holy relic you have to die again. After hearing that, Jae-ha panicked, it seemed like he couldn't believe what he just heard. Surprised by the information from the captain, Jae-ha asked back, what do you mean? You mean using me as a trap? Ju-hoon said, trap, you're right, that's what I mean. Seol-ah was also stunned after hearing this new plan, and smiled faintly. As for Jae-ha, he was scared. He said loudly, what if I get stabbed again and really die? It would be so unfair. In front of Jae-ha's fear, Ju-hoon calmly said, you said you were stabbed in the neck and still alive, you will be safe. Ilya laughed happily, teasing Jae-ha and saying, yes, after all, he didn't die after being electrocuted dozens of times at the royal tomb. In response to this joke, Jae-ha shouted, you bastard, shut up. Jae-ha was still afraid of this new plan, confusedly explaining to the team. Everyone didn't understand, even though the wound would heal, I could still feel that pain, like being stabbed or electrocuted. Then Jae-ha continued to Ju-hoon in a disappointed tone, the damn captain wouldn't even listen to me. Meanwhile, the captain calmly enjoyed his cup of coffee, gently telling Jae-ha, that's your business. After hearing what the captain said, Jae-ha was disappointed, crying and wailing, damn it, I'm going to die unjustly. Suddenly, Julian approached Jae-ha from behind. He didn't understand what happened. He spoke up, I'm back, what's this, what's wrong? Julian entered the meeting room, saw his friend had returned. Ju-hyun was enthusiastic, oh, Julian, thank goodness you're back, I need your help. Julian sighed and said, I'm tired. It seemed like Julian was tired after the long trip, he wanted to rest. The atmosphere became tense between Julian and Ju-hyun. Ju-hyun told Julian that it seems like there is an assassin hunting me, so we are planning to find out what the holy relic he used. Outside the room, Captain Jae-ha heard it, tears rolled down the corner of his eyes. He still thought this was just a dream, right? Julian and Ju-hoon continued to plan. Julian asked, if you saw him you would know what the holy relic he used, right? Ju-hoon wanted Julian to use the holy relic Zhuge Liang. The discussion continued, until Julian felt tired. He replied, yes, but I'll rest for a bit and then do it later, okay? I just got back. Ju-hoon smiled happily, but you will do it, right? Then rest. Ju-hoon really wanted his teammate to keep the promise he just made. Jae-ha was confused at this moment, screaming in his heart. In his mind at this moment only the words of Captain Ju-hoon with a slightly joking tone were lingering. Hear that, everyone is in agreement, get ready. The later it gets, the brighter the city lights are. Late at night, Jae-ha is walking alone on the street, thinking that Jae-ha will pretend to be Ju-hoon again. The more Jae-ha thought about it, the more worried he became. He sighed, this time he was going to die. It seemed like someone was controlling Ju-hoon's face to get his image and reputation. Stop complaining and focus on acting. It turned out that behind everything Jae-ha was thinking was Ju-hoon behind it. He said I have that face he asked me to do the same gestures and facial expressions, like Ju-hoon. Through the phone connection between Ju-hoon and Jae-ha, there was a reminder from Ju-hoon, if the plan failed, he would have to do it again. Jae-ha sighed and replied, he was right. While walking on the street, Jae-ha saw something strange. The street lights kept flashing, it looked scary. Jae-ha tried to be a normal walker, getting into character, wanting to go around pretending to be the captain. It seemed that Jae-ha saw something ahead that scared him. Through the phone, Jae-ha reported the situation to the captain. I think he has arrived, and the captain heard clearly, seizing the opportunity. At this moment, Jae-ha was thinking about himself. I could feel him, but he was very close and like I said, the stranger's aura was very light. Jae-ha said, I don't know when he will appear. At the same time, behind Jae-ha was a stranger secretly following him. Late at night, the empty street is still lit. Jae-ha was walking down the street alone. He turned around but saw no one on the street. At a nearby building, So Ju-hoon and Julian Miller were standing watching Jae-ha's movements through the glass. Ju-hyun asked, is he close yet? Julian replied, I think I can sense him. Suddenly, Ju-hoon felt something unusual. Be warned, the holy relic assassin is near you. He said to Julian, you're right, he's close by. Suddenly a slash rang out, as quick as lightning. Suddenly, Jae-ha was walking normally when he was unfortunately slashed and bleeding profusely. Ju-hoon thought to himself, he had observed very carefully but still couldn't see him. Only traces of movement could be seen passing through Jae-ha's body. Ju-hyun was extremely angry, scratching his head and saying, this is difficult, what do you think, do you know anything? It is actually the holy relic of the serial killer, Jack the Ripper. According to ancient records, Jack the Ripper was a serial killer in London in 1888. He killed at least 5 people and possibly more. Despite their efforts to catch him, the police were never able to find out who Jack the Ripper was. The story of this serial killer has always been famous. And so the holy relic Jack the Ripper was born. Suddenly Julian remembered something, the user of the holy relic Jack the Ripper. Having killed many high-ranking nobles and upper-class people, he always killed them in one hit and then suddenly disappeared. Because he always kills TKBM's enemies, many people suspect that he is on TKBM's side, although I'm not sure. After listening to Julian, Ju-hyun was very thoughtful, now TKBM and I are enemies so he is hunting me. If he really follows TKBM then this is understandable. Suddenly Julian was very panicked, his whole body was shaking with fear, he was speechless, it was impossible. Ju-hyun stood beside him not knowing what had happened. Julian said tremblingly, the user of the holy relic was Nina. Hearing that, Seo Ju-hyun was extremely surprised and shouted, what, Nina, your sister? Julian quietly replied, yes. Ju-hyun was very curious and said, I heard she passed away. Julian could no longer stand, he replied, yes, I'm sure of it. Seo Ju-hyun didn't believe it, and kept reassuring her, are you sure it's Nina, did you see her face? No, maybe you saw wrongly, maybe the enemy used the holy relic illusion? Julian covered his face, tears streaming down his face, he replied, but there's no way they could fool Zhuge Liang with the holy relic. Ju-hyun still couldn't believe it was true, asking again, are you sure it's Nina? Julian affirmed, I am very sure, thanks to the holy relic Zhuge Liang that I caught a glimpse of her face, there is no way this holy relic is wrong. The holy relic Zhuge Liang is truly amazing, he can see Jack the Ripper. But strangely, the user of the holy relic is Julian's sister, Nina, who according to Julian, has been dead for a long time. At the time of the crime, Nina was using Jack the Ripper and wearing a hooded sweatshirt. Although it is quite hard to believe, this is really a big deal, shocking the world. Seo Ju-hoon calmed down and said, suddenly things got complicated. The identity of the assassin was Nina, the Jack the Ripper user. And we can't kill Nina, Julian was so confused. Of course, he replied, damn it, I won't let that happen. Ju-hyun gently said, calm down, I'm talking about the characteristics of the holy relic Jack the Ripper. This holy relic is very fast and powerful. He told Julian, I think capturing her alive is harder than killing her. We have to find another way, because the owner of this holy relic is none other than your sister. But I have a pretty good nose anyway, I can keep using him to trap Nina. Scene change, Jae-ha is still not dead, he lies in a pool of blood thinking, hey guys, you two can go home and make a plan. How long do I have to lie on the road? It really hurts. At the office, everyone was shocked when they heard the news. Lee Seola shouted in surprise, so the assassin was really Julian's sister. Chloe couldn't hide her surprise either, and she really used the holy relic Jack the Ripper. Seo Ju-hoon said, so we have to come up with a new plan. We have to capture Nina alive, and if possible, we shouldn't hurt her. He sighed and continued, but on the contrary, we can't let the team members die while capturing Nina. Yu Jae-ha standing next to him heard this, annoyed, angrily said, why are you saying such scary things with such a straight face? Ju-hyun heard this and replied, I was thinking of using Jae-ha as a trap to lure Nina. Jae-ha was stunned and said, do you want me to get stabbed again? You really don't understand how much it hurts to be stabbed, you're crazy. The two of them were arguing loudly, Chloe had to stop them, if that's the case. My anesthetic might help, hearing that, Ju-hyun said happily, well then, use that. Yu Jae-ha shouted, why didn't you tell her you had anesthetic from the beginning? She replied, when I got back, you guys were all gone. Jae-ha was sweating with worry and turned to Ju-hyun, if you use me as a trap, then what do you plan to use to catch Nina? And then Ju-hyun just replied, that's the problem, we have to think about it. Seo Ju-hoon said why not use Van Gogh to catch her, just let Van Gogh swallow her. Lee Seola thought and said, she's so fast, even the captain can't see it, can Van Gogh suck it in? Ju-hyun said, yes, you're right. Lee Seola continued, it would be faster to use Van Mac Cumhale than Van Gogh, there is another opinion that it would be better to use the crow to swallow Nina. Yu Jae-ha laughed smugly, using Osiris is fine too. This made Julian Miller look dumbfounded, worriedly saying, are you trying to push my sister into hell? Seo Ju-hoon said loudly in front of Julian that if he didn't like it then what did he mean, and he had to try to think of a way so his sister wouldn't get hurt. Julian replied gently, "It's not difficult. Let me do it myself." After hearing that Ju Hyun was surprised, his mouth exclaimed, "Huh." Then Julian presented his way to save his sister. He said, "Thanks to Zhuge Liang I can see her and the lightning attacks of the senses are not slower. I can use the senses to attack Nina." In front of his teammates, Julian explained further, "Thanks to that method I was able to restrain the lightning attack. And just one hit was enough to make Nina faint," and he also asked his teammates if the method was not complicated, right? Hearing Lee Seola's voice, Chloe stood still for a moment, eyes wide open, too surprised by what they had just heard. Seo Ju-hyun's voice became lower, thinking that Julian was capable of maiming more than 100 people, so injuring someone should be quite easy for him. Ju-hyun then said, "That was a good plan. It was right for the older brother to be responsible for his younger sister," but he still felt hesitant and uncertain about Julian's plan. Seo Ju-hyun also asked Julian, he intends to directly participate in this plan and Nina might attack him. What does he intend to do? Julian Miller asked Captain Ju-hyun, "Why don't we bring the Holy Relic for defense?" Ju-hyun replied, "Jack the Ripper's attacks are too strong. We currently don't have any of the Holy Relic that can stop it." Ju-hyun seriously emphasized, "The Holy Relic's defense is as strong as President Kwan's Achilles' heel." Julian spoke hesitantly, unfortunately, and his teammates standing next to him spoke hesitantly, full of doubt, otherwise. Lee Seola comes up with a new way, adding bait, to repel the enemy. And Julian will be responsible for attacking Nina while Jaeha will make the trap. Jaeha panicked and asked her if that was too cruel. Seola affirmed, "But right," causing Jaeha to calm down and agree, "Yes." Jaeha asked suspiciously, "But what if I was with Julian and he was targeted first?" After hearing that, Captain Ju-hyun thought about that situation and judged that the situation was bad. Suddenly Ju-hyun came up with a new idea, he happily said, "Ah, I know." That surprised the whole team, hoping the next plan would be successful. Ju-hyun spread his hand out, showing off the Holy Relic and saying that there were some good the Holy Relics that were perfect for this kind of situation. Ju-hyun summoned the Holy Relic. Ju-hyun's face was happy and satisfied. The useless Holy Relic number 17, this Holy Relic helps increase the chance of the opponent being fooled when we use the bait to lure the enemy. Ju-hyun added, "This new method will be like releasing small prey to catch bigger prey." Ju-hyun explained the new method clearly, like this, in short, this Holy Relic makes all attacks will be directed at him. After hearing that, Jaeha was silent, shocked and very worried because the attack will be aimed at himself. Ju-hyun further explained that when Julian was about to be stabbed, he was the one who actually received the blow. Jaeha's face darkened, angrily saying, "Is this Holy Relic too perfect for this case?" Ilya said, "I also happen to have a demon that can do this." After hearing that, Jaeha turned around and said loudly in a questioning voice, "Why are you so energetic these days?" Ju-hyun reassured his teammates, he said, "Okay, our plan is ready." And also directed that, Julian and Jaeha plus that Holy Relic and the Demon Solomon. Captain Ju-hoon's decision made Jaeha feel wronged, covering his face and crying. Ju-hoon then told Julian confidently, "I'm sure we'll be able to neutralize Nina without seriously harming her." He also reminded the other team members that they would be waiting nearby. Ju-hoon helped Julian stay calm, reassuring him not to worry too much. Because he saw Julian's face full of confusion. Ju-hyun put his hand on Julian's shoulder to give him strength. Together they will carry out this new plan and make sure there are no mistakes. After listening, Julian calmly replied, "Okay." It was morning and the plan had been discussed during the night. The team emphasized that last night was special. All that was discussed was the best way to complete the plan, and we waited for the night to come again. Because the night would be the deciding moment for the success or failure of the plan. Night came and the new plan started to take place. To start the plan, Jaeha disguised himself as Ju-hoon again and the captain arranged for Jaeha and Julian to take their positions and wait. Ju-hyun had his weapons ready. He gave Jaeha the Holy Relic which made the enemy attack him and also had the curse effect from the Demon Solomon which made the enemy not want to attack Julian. Ju-hoon and Seola stood on the upper floor of the building to discuss the battle strategy. Ju-hoon said that when Nina reached the location we had planned, Ju-hoon, Seola, Chloe, and Ilya would block her escape route and prepare for any unexpected situations. Not long after the captain received a message from both of them, they saw the girl had arrived. Julian said in surprise, "Really?" His teammate replied, "Yes." Then he and Ju-hoon went to scout the situation again. The teammate confidently reported the situation, saying, "I'm sure she's nearby." Jaeha disguised as Seo Ju-hyun and Julian were on a mission. Jaeha said, "Nina is getting closer." Julian replied, "Yes, that's right." The girl came, damn, so fast. Nina wearing a hooded coat was walking silently behind. The atmosphere was very tense and fearful. Ju-hyun was standing on the rooftop with Lee Seola watching, she said, "But there was something different from before. Yesterday she attacked before I even sensed her presence." But right now, the main character is feeling something is wrong. Nina is just watching, keeping a safe distance. As much as she had some doubts about the current situation, from Nina's perspective, she had killed me twice but I still looked fine. Ju Hyun thought to himself, this is really strange, this Nina is really not easy to deal with, she is too sinister. Julian turned to Jae-ha and asked, should we continue with the plan? Jae-ha replied, I'm not so sure either. But it's probably okay to continue with the original plan. Even though if we fail this time, there will definitely be no more chances to capture Nina again. Julian understood clearly, he calmly replied, okay, let's try to finish. The two of them are trying very hard, determined to complete the mission successfully because everyone is tired of being stabbed. As for Nina, she started to make a move, she pulled out her sharp knife. Hold the knife firmly, ready to attack. She shot up like a rocket, sword in hand, heading straight towards Jae-ha and Julian. They started to get a little scared. Julian warned that the girl was coming. Jae-ha reassured Julian that it was okay, I would hunt her down. Suddenly Nina jumped into the air, both of them fell into a state of panic. Julian quickly pulled Jae-ha's hand away. Nina was a little confused before achieving her goal. Julian regained his confidence to be able to catch this girl. He released a lightning strike. Nina was electrocuted, she screamed in pain. Nina fell down, lying paralyzed on the ground. Jae-ha stood beside her happily, clapping his hands non-stop, shouting, success. Julian is so good. The girl passed out. But no, Nina wasn't actually unconscious. Her eyes were still wide open, full of malice. She slowly stood up, still holding the weapon in her hand. Julian and Jae-ha were disappointed when they saw this. They were confused and said to each other, what, damn it, isn't that strong lightning enough to knock her out? Lee Seol-ah also understood the situation. She panicked and told Ju Hyun, we're going to lose Nina. Ju Hyun calmly replied, things aren't going according to plan. Seol-ah immediately informed the others through the headset, ordering Chloe and Ilya. Everyone get in position, we have to block Nina's escape route. Ilya was very surprised. Seo Ju-hoon told Seol-ah, order your demon to take my place. I will confront Nina directly. He held his weapon and prepared to jump from the roof of the building. Before leaving, Seol-ah told him, be careful, Captain. Ju Hyun confidently replied, no need to worry, just get in position. As soon as he finished speaking, he flew like the wind and jumped down. Ju-hoon thought to himself, this plan wasn't a complete failure. Scene change, Julian is still trying to use lightning to hold Nina back. But despite her injury, she still reacts too quickly to dodge. Julian started to feel annoyed, he shouted, damn it. Jae-ha didn't know what to do at this point, said, what are you waiting for? Attack her, she's running away now. Julian tried very hard but it was not easy because he could not control his power because she was his sister. Ju-hoon was about to rush over, from afar he shouted, let me handle it. Nina was still running very fast, her speed only slightly reduced. The main character finally landed safely, he also ran up to attack super fast. He confidently told Julian over the walkie-talkie, although the plan seemed to fail, he played a very important role. She was slowed down a bit by his lightning sense attack earlier. Now I can see her clearly. Nina and Ju-hoon rushed to fight each other, both sides launched very high-quality blows. Nina was blocked, fell down and angrily said, how could it be blocked, impossible. Ju Hyun smirked provocatively, not knowing that the holy relic could also be blocked. Nina did not give up, stood up and continued to fight, her tone was also very strong, so you try it. Ju Hyun still dodged many attacks, he did not underestimate her, he was very careful to guard against her. Ju-hoon was very confident, smiling brightly as if he had already won, it was fast but I was already prepared. Suddenly Jae-ha was stabbed by her again. This was the third time Jae-ha was stabbed, he shouted, why am I here? Ju-hoon calmly explained, it was just the effect of the holy relic. I won't have to worry about dodging the attack, because when the enemy tries to attack me, it will be directed towards you. The plan works, as long as you're nearby, I'm safe. Hearing that, Jae-ha was so angry that he was about to explode, he took off his disguise mask, Ju Hyun, you damn devil. Nina saw something was wrong. She quickly tried to run away, Jae-ha saw that and panicked, saying, the girl is running, quickly catch her. Suddenly a blanket fell from above, Julian said, I won't let you run, Nina. It turned out that Julian had thrown the blanket over Nina to hold her and buy some time. Nina struggled under the blanket, unable to escape. Jae-ha was cheering happily, he did it. Ju Hyun also said, good job Julian, Jae-ha wondered, when did you give him the holy relic? Julian finally caught Nina, trapping her in a magical bag that seemed to have no bottom. He breathed a sigh of relief, not expecting her to be able to move after taking a lightning bolt. Although I adjusted my attacks a bit, I think she used the holy relic to reduce the effectiveness of her opponent's attacks. Ju Hyun heard that and said, it's possible, I didn't think of that. Julian continued, but we finally caught her, huh? Ilya radioed everyone, gather, we caught Nina. Although it didn't go as planned, we still caught her and brought her back to base. Nina seemed to see someone coming in front of her, scared. Ju-hoon crossed his arms and said to his friend Julian standing next to him, Julian can tie her up, right? But why does it look like she doesn't recognize him? Julian was silent, doubtfully saying, yes, but Nina's personality is not this cruel. Ju-hoon replied, this cruelty is beyond the word personality, and added, she looks like a zombie craving for human brains. Ju-hoon even thought that maybe someone was plotting this. Julian said, I will ask Ilya to find out. Julian worriedly said, if we use that method Nina will suffer, right, and we have no other choice. Having said that, Julian was worried and put his face down, but his friend Ilya stood next to him and comforted him, saying, don't worry, I'll just take a look so she won't be in too much pain. Ilya added, after all, he couldn't leave her like that. Nina was now angry, on the defensive, with ropes wrapped around her, but she was trying to say something. Julian felt more reassured by Ilya's words, he said, I can't see her like that. Ju Hyun standing beside him also comforted him, saying don't worry, I'll order Chloe to get ready. Receiving orders from Ju Hyun, Ilya and Chloe then brought Nina into the room. Standing watching them take Nina away, behind them was the image of their friend Julian, very nervous, his hands were shaking. Who would have thought that a man with a heart of steel like Julian would have a moment of worry and collapse? He really thought his sister was dead. He remembered the time before when Nina went missing. She went missing while she was at school and he wasn't there to help. Before he was reborn in this life, he kept looking for Nina without stopping. Ju Hyun thought that because he loved his sister, he kept looking for her, even though there were times when he was desperate and it was just to find his sister that he joined TKBM. After being reborn, Ju Hyun heard Julian say that Nina was dead, so he didn't try to find her. The loss of his sister meant that his brother was desperate and had no more faith to find her. The world seemed to have collapsed. Ju Hyun shared the reason behind Julian's decision to volunteer for the victims of the Holy Relic. It could be because he was fed up with the people abusing the Holy Relic and maybe because of the death of his sister Nina. Those were the reasons why Ju Hyun knew that the CEO Ju Hyun always felt restless and couldn't sit still. Cut to the next day. Ilya and Chloe came to report the results, and the superior said, you two did well, take a break later. The two of them were shocked when they heard that. So Ju Hyun said, as we thought, she still has her old memories, luckily we tried to look at her memories first. They disabled Nina's original memories, he continued, like locking them away. Julian worriedly asked Chloe if he could recover. Chloe replied, of course he could, if he did it little by little. But she also said that it would be difficult, but I don't think that recovering her memories will return her to normal. Her senses and emotions have been damaged due to using the Holy Relic too much. Nina has been turned into a weapon that can no longer feel pain or remorse. Nina is now lying unconscious on a hospital bed. Julian was extremely angry for his sister, he gritted his teeth and said, what have they done to my sister? Ilya hesitantly told Julian the truth, based on Nina's memories, there are some things I have to tell you. First of all, there were a few people who also fell victim like Nina. Ju Hyun asked, does this happen to other people too? You mean there were other victims like Nina? Ilya replied seriously, yes, I think so. When I looked at her memories, I saw the prison where she was held. There were many others with her and the prison was owned by the healer King Benjani. Speaking of this, he suddenly asked, right, the current king of healing is you, right Chloe? Hearing that, she was startled. He said again, then the king of medicinal herbs Benjani. Saying this, she immediately interrupted, I don't care who is the king. Then she looked at Rockefeller, he meant that woman. Benjani kidnapped and brainwashed them, she was really crazy. Ilya replied, she didn't do this alone, TKBM was definitely involved in this. Chloe stroked her hair, yeah, I'm not sure that was a funny thing. Ilya then looked at Ju Hyun, the medicinal king would give the processed people to TKBM and they would have to work in some kind of slave regime. Miller gritted his teeth, damn TKBM, could it be that they were doing this to make up for the lack of manpower? I heard that TKBM's situation wasn't very good recently, or rather, it was in dire straits because their employees were gradually resigning. Suddenly Ju Hyun spoke up, no, that has nothing to do with this matter. He was surprised to hear that and asked back, why? He started explaining, think about it, when we found Nina in the previous life, I was the one who found her even though TKBM was in charge of the search. And when we found her, we never heard anything about Jack the Ripper again. If we put the pieces together, maybe Nina was Jack the Ripper all along. He was shocked after hearing that, what did you say? Ju Hyun calmly asked again, isn't that right, everything matches. Chairman Kwan approached him when he was exhausted from searching for Nina. Miller replied, "He told me that I would help you find your sister in exchange for you helping me with the company. And when he worked at TKBM, they pretended to be looking for his sister. Your sister became Jack the Ripper, a murderer herself. The search for your sister progressed when I joined in because I couldn't stand by anymore. Because those bastards stopped looking for Nina, that's why we were able to find her. TKBM is on the rise, must have been doing so for a long time." The more he listened, the more the veins on Miller's forehead stood out. Ju Hyun said doubtfully, "But why did they do that? They really crossed the line." At this moment Miller suddenly screamed, he lost control of his energy, "I cannot forgive them." Ju Hyun looked at him, "You have the right to be angry, but I will deduct your salary if you destroy our place." He paused. Ju Hyun continued, "Calm down first and take care of your sister. We found her quite early this time, didn't we?" He snorted in frustration. Then Ju Hyun picked up the phone and contacted Edward immediately. "I will have someone investigate what those bastards are plotting." Ju Hyun told him to step up his monitoring of TKBM-related issues. Even though he grumbled a bit about how busy he was, he still did as I said like always. Mr. Edward groaned, "Why is there more and more work?" And he also asked someone else to investigate. The other person got a phone call and asked, "What's going on? Kidnapping of citizens. TKBM is doing evil things again, but what does this have to do with Pandora?" Ju Hyun replied, "I called you to ask that. Such a large-scale job, surely TKBM couldn't do it alone. I had a hunch that Pandora was involved in this, I felt pretty sure, so I asked him." Finally he said, "I understand, I will go and ask, but it will probably take some time." Ju Hyun heard that and asked, "Why, are you busy?" He replied, "They've been watching me lately so it's a bit difficult." He was angry at this point, "It was all because you stole all the family heirlooms. This is the price you have to pay." Ju Hyun sighed and pushed the phone away from his hand. After a while, he said, "Okay, I will wait for you, do it carefully." He agreed and closed the door and went out. Suddenly he stopped and looked at the person who had just walked in. Rockefeller glanced at him. For eyes met, he frowned at her. Just seconds later she left him bewildered. He narrowed his eyes and began to be alert, looking at her eyes, they were definitely watching. She walked out of the big door. She came before a giant man, Prometheus, who had returned. "The matter of the Tomb of Greed has been solved," he replied with one word, "yes. I have pushed the greedy holy relic to the brink of destruction, she will no longer be able to build tombs. We just need to restore her after capturing SEO Ju Hyun," she replied reluctantly, "I understand." He transformed into human form and asked, "What's the matter, any good news?" "Like if SEO Ju Hyun was captured or you brought back a family heirloom," she replied, "that's not the case." He despised, "Just as I predicted, you guys are nothing more than a bunch of good-for-nothings." She listened and cursed in her heart, "Damn it, why do I always have to endure these things?" Suddenly he said, "Let's go, we still have a lot of work to do. Since we've prevented SEO Ju Hyun from getting any more heirlooms from the 7 tombs, what we need to do now is to take the heirloom back from him, do whatever it takes." At the huge headquarters, suddenly an explosion rang out. The headquarters was bombed and exploded. Edward asked in panic, "What happened?" The employee hurriedly said, "Boss, you need to evacuate immediately." "I thought there was terrorism." He was surprised and asked again, "What?" Elsewhere, SEO Ju Hyun receives a call from Edward. He curled his lips and calmly picked up the phone. "Hello Edward, are the investigation results out yet?" He urgently said, "Captain, we're in trouble. Investigation, my company is under terrorist attack, everything is stopped." "You are surprised, what?" He said as he walked out of the office, "From what I heard, my factory had caught fire and someone had broken into the herbal farm of eternal youth. What a mess, what was going on?" He sat up and said, "Okay, I will send reinforcements, wait for me." He urged impatiently, "Please come quickly." Seola heard the commotion and asked, "What happened?" He briefly told her, "It seemed that those bastards Pandora had a hand in this matter. The Grave Corporation is under attack. After assessing the damage we need to prepare to support them." "Do it now." She immediately agreed to the order. "Understood." Ju Hyun scolded in annoyance, "Stupid Pandoras, it seems they are going crazy doing disgusting things to get back the family heirloom." As expected, Pandora and her associates are causing trouble everywhere. After the Royal Tomb incident, they caused a lot of commotion in Seoul. I thought things had calmed down when we arrived in New York. But it turned out they only paused and then returned to attack more brutally than before. They massacred innocent people regardless of whether they were the target or not. They gradually eliminated the people around us. We sent some people to guard the Grave Corporation headquarters, some others to the factory and the herbal farm of eternal youth. They also attacked people around me in Seoul. Leaving Dan there was the right choice. Given the current situation, we are forced to temporarily put the investigation into Jack the Ripper on hold. Ju Hyun looked at Nina angrily gripping the bars and reassured her, "You scared me, calm down Nina. Just a little more, your brother will be here in a few days." Jae-ha asked him worriedly, even if Julian was here, she wouldn't recognize him. "What should we do?" Ju Hyun thought for a moment and said, "He will gradually get better, I think so." Nina kept growling. Ju Hyun sighed, "This is bad, all these random things keep popping up and there's a pile of things to deal with." He glanced at the bars where Nina was locked up. Then asked, "What do we do about this situation?" Nina kept screaming inside the bars. Ju Hyun sighed, "So what now?" Jae-ha was also helpless. "I think we need the help of Miss Chloe or Mr. Ilya to be free to do other things." Ju Hyun also agreed with this opinion. But seeing Nina frantically tightening the bars, he asked again, "Should we let her pass out again?" The iron bars shook violently. Jae-ha was startled and said, "Why is she suddenly so angry?" But Ju Hyun was very calm, not surprised at all. After hearing that, he felt even more helpless. Every time I said something, she would do that. What should he do? Ju Hyun replied, "It was because of you that the girl was arrested." He looked at Ju Hyun unjustly. "What? Wait, it was thanks to me that the girl was able to meet her real brother again." Ju Hyun curled his lips. She didn't care about those things, now she just hated him. Jae-ha gritted her teeth and cursed. Suddenly a phone call came in. It was Seola calling. "Is she done?" Then he picked up the phone, and the person on the other end of the line said, "Boss, I've already resolved the situation at the Grave Group headquarters. We've dealt with those who wanted to target them, the defenses here have been reinforced." Ju Hyun replied, "Good job, can we go back now?" She said, "Maybe, but first I have to search them." At this moment suddenly there were footsteps approaching. The man held out his hand. "You are talking to the young master, right? Please give it to me for a moment." Then Ju Hyun heard another voice, "Young master, it's me Edward." Ju Hyun was a bit confused. "What's wrong?" He smiled, "Thank you very much, you sent the right person. Thanks to you, I can rest a bit now." Ju Hyun heard and immediately asked, "If it's all settled, can you let them go? Because I see you have a lot of work to do, so I won't say it directly, but it's enough for you to understand." He quickly said, "No, it's rare for us to be like that. Actually, I called because I wanted to ask you for something else." "What is it?" he asked. "The rest of my team is already on their way to the factory and farm." He immediately replied, "It's not that. It's about Joy Allenby. We don't really have the resources to monitor her. Most of our staff are injured now, so we can't keep watch these days." Ju Hyun clenched his fists. What did he say? Ju Hyun sighed, "Okay, I'll take care of it." He replied, "Thank you." Seola looked at the screen and said, "Sorry," he hung up. He just said, "It's okay." Then she asked, "By the way, who is Joy Allenby? You said you were keeping an eye on her." He replied, "More like protecting her. She is a student studying at Harvard. I was told to keep her safe and financially secure. I've been doing this for a while, ever since we started working together. I thought the master wanted to supervise her because she was an excellent student, but these days I think it's for another reason." That girl looked a bit like the young master, perhaps she was his relative? Hearing that, Seola couldn't help but be surprised. Then she turned to Miller and said, "Could it be boss's sister?" He suddenly remembered, "That's right, I remember him saying he had a twin sister. The last time we visited her, she died of a rare and strange disease." Mr. Edward was shocked. "What? I see she is very healthy, if anything happened to her I would die." Miller reassured him, "She is fine now." He heard that and breathed a sigh of relief. "Really, you scared me." He said seriously, "We are being attacked everywhere, so it is difficult to keep an eye on her. I just told the young master that we cannot control her, if anything happens it will be trouble for me." Seola rubbed her chin. Boss said he had been looking for her for a long time. Why did he have to secretly help her like that? Miller sighed. Obviously, he did so because he thought that if he stayed close, she might be in danger. Looking at the current situation, we are constantly being attacked by the holy relics. Miller was annoyed. He shouldn't have overreacted like that. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. She smiled wryly at him. The world no longer ignored the holy relic anymore. Edward laughed and said, "Then I'll let you two finish your work and then come back to the young master." Miller held back his anger. The best sentence I've ever heard. On Ju Hyun's side, he kept staring at his phone. Jae-ha confusedly called boss. "Why are you just standing there? Did something happen to Seola and Julian?" Ju Hyun just kept quiet and didn't say anything. Then Ju Hyun replied, "Nothing," then turned away, leaving him staring blankly. Ju Hyun muttered to himself, "Julian finished, now it's my turn. There must be something wrong with my sister." Ju Hyun thought to himself, I have a younger sister named Seo Ju-won. After our parents passed away, it was just the two of us. Before we knew it, she was adopted at a very young age and came to America while I was still in the camp. From then until I met Jeon Woo-hyung again, I was alone. The world was completely turned upside down by those holy relics. And I had the chance to meet her again after joining TKBM for a while. But my sister had a rare disease and was in a very unstable condition. When she was in the ICU, she was on the verge of death. We never got to see each other again. I wasn't very healthy at that time either. It was a time when the situation around me became worse. That's why when I went back in time and kept the situation stable, I asked Edwards to keep an eye on her for now. My sister now lives under another identity, Joy Allenby. And she's now studying at Harvard. It's good to see that she's doing well. But on the other hand, I felt out of place because she didn't need anything from me. That's why I didn't think I needed to see her again. If TKBM or Pandora caught me with her, a bunch of unnecessary trouble would come her way. I decided to help her like that. The bodyguard will look after her and she will not have any financial difficulties or danger. He stood there in thought. But there weren't any bodyguards beside her right now. Should I go myself? But that's okay. Maybe it's better to leave it until the Edwards manpower problem is resolved. If it was resolved, he thought, gritting his teeth, he had to go, he couldn't stay here forever. At Joy's school at the moment. She hugged her documents and hurriedly ran away, she was almost late. She didn't know that Ju-hoon was quietly watching her from afar. He saw her like that and smiled slightly. It seemed like there was no problem, right? A student looked at him suspiciously. A moment later, Joy shyly opened the door and apologized for being late. Her friend worriedly asked, "Are you okay, Joy?" She was surprised. "I'm fine, why are you asking?" She said, "Reina said there was a stranger following you. He was busy so he left first but still wanted me to ask if you were okay." Joy took out her phone to check and said, "He texted me too, I was in a hurry so I didn't notice." "I didn't notice anything." My friend scratched her head and laughed, happy that we were both wrong. She also laughed. "Then let's start the experiment." Ju-hoon is standing from afar looking at the school right now. Where is he? He couldn't stop worrying. She's been in the lab for an hour, isn't she going out or something? I guess I should worry about her and Pandora. The students in the school looked at him and gossiped, "Who is that? Looks too suspicious." Suddenly he glanced over to observe. Joy was walking with her friend. She asked, "What are you going to eat tonight?" Her friend laughed. She didn't know. "I was thinking about the shop we went to that day. What do you think?" Joy was about to answer when she saw someone coming in front of her. Joy and her brother faced each other. Joy looked at the boy before her in shock. She did not know what to say for a moment. Ju-hoon also looked at her silently. Her friend wondered, "Who is that? Do you know him?" Joy refused. "No, how would I know?" The girl cautiously whispered, "Let's go, what's wrong with him? Why is he looking at you like that? Is he maybe stalking you?" "Weird." Joy replied, "Probably not." He just looked at her silently and thought to himself, she didn't recognize me at all, just as he expected. Should he say something? At this time she happily talked and laughed with her friends and left. He still followed silently behind. At this moment she was a bit wary. She frowned and glanced back. Immediately she pulled her friend's hand and shouted, running away. Ju Hyun smiled and called back, "Wait a minute, stop." She panicked even more, "He's chasing us." He hurriedly chased after her. "Let's talk, I'm not a bad person." She replied as she ran, "If I wasn't bad, why would I be chasing us?" Damn, he thought impatiently, I didn't expect her to react like that. I have to settle this before it attracts more attention. He took out a painting, a drawing by Van Gogh, held them back first and then went to where it was empty. Suddenly her body was surrounded by a transparent blue light. She screamed in horror, "What happened to me?" Joy looked scared too. Seeing that it originated from Ju Hyun, she immediately scolded, "You damn lunatic, how dare you lock us up?" Then he commanded the painting, "Catch it," and it immediately obeyed. Suddenly the light from the painting stopped. Immediately after that it disappeared. He looked at it blankly. It flew towards Joy. It was the first time I saw such a beautiful human. Joy screamed in horror. She hurriedly wanted to chase it away. "What is it? Get away." But it was determined to cling to her. It didn't want to be my master. He angrily shouted, "What are you doing?" Just then a card appeared before his eyes. The holy relic was attracted by the other extreme towards it. He was bewildered. She possessed a higher extreme. Really, how could my holy relic betray me for that? Then he summoned two beasts. "Okay, you two go, remember not to hurt her." They obeyed and charged. Seeing the two animals chasing her, Joy ran and shouted, "Is it a dog this time?" The brown one jumped forward. It stopped her. She stood there, stunned. Ju Hyun spoke up in praise, "Great, well done." He smiled and said, "Hold her but remember not to hurt her." They replied, "Understood, please leave her to us." Suddenly it stopped, this feeling. Two dogs stuck their tongues out at her. "Human, she's so charming. And it smells good." "Set, smell it too." "Yes, it smells so good." I looked at them helplessly. "What the hell are you guys doing?" They rolled around under my feet, so fragrant. They fell down. I fell down too. Joy couldn't help but be confused. What's going on? I don't know why they reacted like that, but this is a good opportunity for me to escape. Thinking that, she ran away. Ju Hyun cursed, "Damn it, she escaped again." He looked at his betrayed holy relic in shock. She could actually make the holy level holy relic like this. The dog called out to her reluctantly, "Stop, cute girl." He sighed. It seemed like his sister had a super high affinity for the holy relic. He had the holy relic syndrome at such a young age. It was cruel. If he had that extreme from birth, then I guess that's probably the cause of his illness. Because usually people often take advantage of their high tai chi to control the holy relic and then die from the holy relic syndrome. I have to keep her as soon as possible. I'll probably have to give her 10 times more immortal grass than a normal person. It's not easy to catch her. No matter what I use, she sticks to me. And this is the result, a bunch of the holy relic clinging to Joy. She's screaming, "I can't see anything. Get off me, I've had enough trouble with that weirdo stalking me." "But they're still on you." "No, we can't do that, it's so comfortable." "Tell me what you want to do, we will do it all for you." Ju Hyun angrily chased after them, "These guys." He threw out the rope. "Come on, rope, I only trust you." It appeared and asked, "Did you call me?" He replied, "Right, stop that pile. Be careful, you might get enchanted. If you join those gang then you should reconsider." He asked in confusion, "Enchanted?" He said again, "You said the person who likes me the most, right?" It shyly replied, "Yes, the best master." He smiled contentedly. "Good, remember that." It agreed and stretched itself up. Ju Hyun watched it impatiently. "I bet everything on this because it's not like the other holy relics. If even the rope fails then I'll have to find another way." The rope flew up and wrapped around them. "Take this." Then suddenly it stopped. Soon it stuck like any other holy relic, so comfortable. The other holy relics shouted, "Hey, line up, we came first." He shouted angrily, "Hey, rope, focus." The rope wrapped around her legs. It stretched her body. Joy was oppressed to the point of discomfort, but she was helpless. Finally she couldn't stand and fell down. He exclaimed, "I caught her." Rope hurriedly came to explain, "Yes, I was almost bewitched." He smiled, "Well done, you have fulfilled your responsibility." It was praised happily and immediately jumped behind. He said with satisfaction, "Okay, it's easier to breathe now, let's solve this quickly." He looked at the pile of holy relics and scolded, "You dare to betray me? Do you want to be punished altogether?" They even cried out, "What did we do?" "Honestly, if we find a better new owner, we will change owners. That's normal. Are you treating us with human love like this? You really are helpless against them. What humanity did she have towards you? What did she do? You are only confused by her, the holy relic extreme." He narrowed his eyes, "But even though we don't have the holy relic, I am still very strong in dominating the holy relic." He said this with a powerful energy. "Anyone who disobeys will become food for the crows." Two black smokes come and wrap around them with a cry, "Dead my brothers." He smirked, at least the crow wasn't being manipulated. The crow said, "Do you think I'm like them?" Then he asked them again, "What are you going to do, you rebels?" They quickly said, "We are sorry, we have made a serious mistake." I was just like that because it had been a long time since I had seen such a high the holy relic pole. I must have gone crazy at that time. Joy was stunned to hear these strange words. They begged, "Please forgive us. You should have done this sooner," he said coldly. He curled his lips and called for a rope. He tied her up. Joy was so terrified she couldn't speak. She screamed as the rope wrapped around her several times. "I'm home," a voice said, breaking the gloomy atmosphere. Seo Ju-hyun just walked in and started to complain. "Humph, I'm so tired." A young man saw him coming back and said, "Welcome back, boss." Yoo Jae-ha continued to ask, "Have you finished what needs to be done?" He heard him ask that and immediately asked again, Hearing that, he immediately said, "Oh, I thought you went to see your sister." After Ju-hyun finished speaking, a picture appeared in his hand. Ju-hyun also spoke up. "Yes, we met here, she was tied up." As soon as he finished speaking, a tied person appeared on the ground. Jae-ha saw the scene before him and shouted in surprise. "Ah," Ju-hyun said happily, "over there. It ran away because it didn't recognize me, so I had a bit of trouble catching it. Jaeha stuttered after hearing that. I understand. Jaeha untied the rope on his sister's mouth and said, "Okay, let's talk." Joy Allenby was untied and shouted, "Who are you? Why did you do this to me?" Ju Hyun heard her question and calmly put his hands in his pockets and said, "You are my brother." She was startled and shouted loudly after hearing him say that. "Huh?" Ju Hyun patiently said it again. "I said I am your brother." Joy looked straight at Ju Hyun and asked, "Who the hell are you?" Ju Hyun listened to her and helplessly told her all of her information. "My real name is Seo Ju-won. I lived in Korea when I was young and moved to America after being adopted. I have a twin brother named Seo Ju Hyun. Do you understand what I'm saying?" She heard that it was her information and immediately replied, "What? So you are." Before she could finish, Seo Ju Hyun spoke up and continued, "Yes, I am Seo Ju Hyun. I didn't bring you here to hurt you. Quite the opposite." Joy looked at the person in front of her with a puzzled look. He continued, "If you understand, I will untie you. Promise not to cause trouble." She raised her head to answer him. "Okay, I'll listen to you first." Ju Hyun replied, "Okay. The rope. Let it go." He brought her a cup of hot water and thought to himself, "And that's how we were able to talk face to face after 17 years apart. It looked confused when I said that. Well, it seemed to understand." She looked at the glass of water in front of her and said nothing. "If that's the case, I just have to do what I have to do." He pointed at her and smiled. "Understand?" She looked at him with a bit of fear and asked, "So, the situation became chaotic because of Pandora? And you want me to join your team to be safe?" Ju Hyun nodded after hearing her words. "That's right." He picked up his glass of water and slowly added, "As expected of a university student. You are so smart. You understand things very quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, the girl on this side immediately refused. "I don't want it." Ju Hyun looked at her and asked, "You don't want to?" She quickly replied, "Yes, honestly, it was hard to believe what he said because everything happened so suddenly." She continued in a harsh voice, "Why did Pandora cause chaos in the world? Wasn't it because they had a good reason?" Ju Hyun heard that and said, "Based on what you just said, it seems like you don't know anything about the holy relic. Listen to me. That's where." Before he could finish his sentence, she interrupted and argued back, "It doesn't matter because I won't change my decision no matter what you say." Jaeha sat in the middle listening to the two arguing, helpless, not knowing what to say, so she just sat there and ignored them. "And I have help," Joy Allenby said at once, which surprised him a little. She ignored his expression and continued, "The people who sponsored my tuition. They invited me to work with them in the future. They sponsored my tuition, so I am considering their offer. And that's why I can't change my plan suddenly." He thought to himself, grinning. "That Edward guy. He's planning on hiring her." Ju Hyun asked her, "They are from the Tomb Corporation, right?" She was a little surprised when she heard him say that, then he added, "The company sponsored my tuition." She suddenly stood up and asked seriously, "How do you know?" "It's your company." He continued speaking. She was so angry that her whole body trembled and she shouted loudly, "What?" But he was still calm as if nothing had happened. "Why are you so surprised?" Joy Allenby continued to shout, "No, I will not believe you." While she was extremely angry, he calmly smiled and spoke. That old man was his subordinate. "Lie. You think I'll believe it that easily?" Seeing him pick up the phone and call someone, she said contemptuously. On this side, he confidently held the phone and smiled as he replied, "Edward, please speak to Joy." Not knowing what the other side had said, he continued speaking. "What? It's Joy Allenby. She's with me." He handed her the phone and she said, "Here, talk to him." "It's Edward." She still didn't believe him and scolded him. It was ridiculous. Joy held the phone in her hand. Her face turned pale after she heard Edward's voice. Ju Hyun was extremely pleased, putting his hands in his pockets and standing there looking at the girl's expression. Seeing her stiff expression when she answered the phone. Edward, he told her he was telling the truth. And after the call ended, Joy was so shocked that she dropped the phone in her hand. To calm her down, he clapped his hands loudly and said, "Hey, wake up. When will you get over this shock?" He crossed his arms and looked at her. Your life won't even change, right? The only difference is that you found your brother. She looked at him for a moment and then stammered. But. Well, actually there is a slight change. One of my team members will follow you wherever you go. She heard that and her mouth was still open in shock. He continued. Because it is difficult to have someone follow you all the time. So you are not allowed to go out when they are off work. She jumped up and screamed. Huh? That's not fair. He didn't care and continued. When we find a bodyguard for you, you'll be freer. Ju Hyun glared at his little sister and said a few words. You should be grateful for this arrangement. Because I really don't have enough manpower right now. Joy could not bear to continue yelling at him without any regard. I did not ask you to do that. Why do you decide everything on your own? It's been 17 years. All 17 years. If we haven't seen each other for so long, shouldn't we get to know each other slowly? Joy continued. I felt overwhelmed by all this. And you forbade me from going out. I stepped on your suggestions. You are such a patriarch. She was so angry that she shouted loudly. Biologically. The one who was born first is me. I am your older sister. Ju Hyun answered helplessly. In terms of temperament, I am indeed family. It doesn't matter if I am your older sister or your younger brother. He added. Okay. I have no choice but to keep you safe. Get used to it. She gritted her teeth and looked at him, extremely annoyed. And you majored in engineering, right? Help us in a machine operating area with the holy relic of the future. He changed the subject to tell her. Hearing that, she asked back. What? What nonsense? He continued smugly. The holy relic, machine operator. You are perfect for our company. Do as I say and stay here. Jaeha was stunned after hearing that. It seemed like he was going to make her work a lot. She stood up and held her head, screaming. It was so annoying. What the hell was going on? He crossed his arms and thought that Joy seemed happy to see him, seeing how she reacted. Now we have secured Nina and Joy. No one around us will be troubled by the enemy anymore. The Toon group couldn't hide completely, so they might still be attacked. But since we only had one place to defend now. So things became easy for us, and every time we had a chance to counterattack, the scene cut to the members fighting hard. We did everything we could in that attack. Time passed as we attacked each other. The tall flames that burned seemed to show their extremely strong fighting spirit. Isn't that too much? A voice said. Rothschild said, we have spent so much time and effort but achieved nothing. The young man next to him quickly replied, I am sorry. Austin Rockefeller replied with a stern expression, but after all, the Mausoleum Group had suffered continuous losses. He frowned in dissatisfaction. That's not enough. What I want is to strike at their core. He continued, this can't be done. Gather the command. Austin was surprised to hear that and asked. Why so suddenly? He put his hands in his pockets and said, I was thinking of upgrading them. Why did he gather us all of a sudden? A strange voice rang out. The sound of footsteps gradually became louder. I'm not sure, but it doesn't sound like a bad thing. They say Mr. Rothschild wants to give us something. They walked away discussing excitedly why they had gathered so urgently. Is that all? I was scared for no reason. Let's go quickly. While they were chatting, George Hilton was secretly watching from behind. Night has fallen over the city. At this moment, the door to the room opened. We were back. It was Julian Miller and Lee Iseoa. Ju Hyun was already standing there and quickly praised. Good job. Julian heard that and quickly replied. You don't know how much we want to come back here. The attacks from those Pandora bastards have started to decrease, he said, to which Ju Hyun replied, that they need to sort things out. It's good for us anyway. While we were talking, the phone rang loudly. It was George calling. It seemed he had news. He answered the phone with a smile. How is it? George, have you found what I asked for earlier? The other end of the line listened and immediately replied. No, I haven't found anything about TKBM yet, but I have found something else. He continued speaking. It seemed that Rothschild was planning to give his comrades the holy relics that he had sealed earlier. Hearing this, he asked again, a little worried. The holy relics that he had sealed earlier? Yes. They were either highly reactive or very difficult to control. To the point where it was better to remove the seal. They were truly powerful holy relics. He continued to increase his power even if it meant taking more risks. George told him everything he knew. He was now extremely serious with an unpleasant expression on his face as he replied. No wonder everything has been quiet lately. George also replied. Well, it was because of him that they became more worried. They look calm on the outside but they are actually desperate and will do anything to win you over, George added. Rothschild led the Pandora crowd with dignity. He suddenly spoke. I will say it again. The holy relics I am about to give you are very dangerous. We sealed them away because we determined that they cannot coexist with humans. Rothschild reminded. All of Pandora's subordinates became unusually tense at Rothschild's words. You guys might lose a part of your body, or if it is found that you can harm Pandora, we will consider you a failed experiment. His thick nose suddenly turned back. Standing in front of the huge door, Rothschild said, whoever still wants to do it after hearing what I said, stay behind. Can we become royalty if we possess this holy relic? Yes, these holy relics have that power, so I think it's worth a try. Don't you think so? A convincing Pandora. The other names were extremely excited with the condition and hastily agreed. Yes, we will become kings with one of these holy relics. We are ready. Rothschild asked his subordinate beside him. Open the door. The subordinate respectfully obeyed. Yes, director. The door slowly opened. An exclamation rang out. Oh, the door opened. Who is it? Who let us out? It's Prometheus. He's here at last. A voice called out from inside the room. The room erupted in cheers. He needed us after all. Right? We were free. Free. Just as George had reported, those Pandora bastards were starting to show signs of getting stronger, and at the office Seo Ju-hyun was absorbed in finding out information. His hands moved quickly over the keyboard. First came a series of new kings. After the mysterious holy relics are released, whoever possesses the mysterious holy relics can become the king. On Seo Ju-hyun's computer screen is the information of the section chief Kim Yeol-song, the king of loyalty, and the director Han Kim, the king of stinginess. The common point of these two people is that they both have a long experience in work. But they were going against the rules they had set for themselves. A bunch of new kings had registered in just a few days. He thought to himself. Among them are Kwon Tae-jun and Kwon Hyuk-soo. The screen switches to two new people with familiar faces, Kwon Tae-jun the conquering king and Kwon Hyuk-soo the love king. The information of the two people is also very good. A loud noise came from the wall. He was still lost in thought. And one more thing. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the door while Seo Ju-hyun was concentrating on working on the computer. He turned around in surprise to look. Seo Ju-hyun's entire body was slowly changing, all his limbs were unable to move. He shouted in surprise. What's going on? My body. They started ambushing us again. In a cave, not only Seo Ju-hyun was teleported, but also Yoo Jae-ha and Lee Seola. Jae-ha and Seola saw Ju-hyun nervously stuttering and calling out. Boss. Looking at the scene, he cursed. Damn it. Were we being teleported? Or summoned? Suddenly a foot stepped towards Ju-hyun pretending to cry and said. Why are you guys so surprised? A group of strangers carrying many weapons in their hands approached from behind. A guy with a scar on his face came out with a whip and threatened. There's no one here to see. We can beat you up. Seo Ju-hyun did not flinch and smiled threateningly. You think you can? Who do you think you are? You brat. The scarred man saw his strong attitude and lost his composure and shouted. What did you say? He swung the rope up, preparing to strike down, while gaining momentum and shouting. You arrogant bastard. I will make you my slaves. The rope swung towards Ju-hyun, but with his agile body he easily avoided the attack. Ju-hyun said nervously. What a sudden attack. Suddenly his eyes widened in surprise. The rope kept swinging wildly towards Seo Ju-hyun. Ju-hyun tried to dodge the attacks with all his might, and suddenly felt nervous. He was too fast. The scarred guy got more and more excited as he beat me. You're so confident. Now your car is running. Without a moment's distraction, he was quick as lightning, not receiving a single attack, even from his continuous attacks. Ju-hyun's eyes suddenly turned cold towards the bastard as he said. It's true that I was a bit surprised, but do you think you can defeat me with just this ability? I wonder if your assistants feel the same way. He continued. Behind Seo Ju-hyun, Seola and Jae-ha struggled to dodge the attacks. Suddenly Jae-ha stopped. The scarred man's rope successfully wrapped around his body. The whole hand was also tightened by the rope. Lee Seola called worriedly. Jae-ha. The scarred man laughed with great delight. Caught him. Without hesitation, the rope tightened as if it wanted to squeeze Jaeha's soul dry. He cried out in pain. Seo Ju-hyun gritted his teeth angrily as he looked at the unexpected situation before him. The scarred bastard's voice suddenly rang out, cursing. Stupid bastard. Jaeha's hands were tied by the chains. His body seemed lifeless. The scarred man spoke again. If my whip hits you. Suddenly Jaeha, but unlike Jaeha, he coldly looked towards Seo Ju-hyun. You will become a slave and obey my every command. The bastard kept warning. It seemed like there was a force controlling him, causing Jaeha to lose control and rush towards Ju-hyun. Taste it, you bastard. He jumped high as if he wanted to use all his strength to hit down. At the same time, the scarred man swung the rope at Ju-hyun smugly. This is for you. Seo Ju-hyun. Jaeha was like a mad beast smashing. Ju-hyun helplessly raised his hand to cover his mouth to prevent himself from cursing. Damn it! A loud explosion echoed through the cave. Dust and smoke rose into the air. Scarface said proudly. How do you feel? Suddenly the crow's eyes lit up. The scarred man froze and stopped laughing. Seo Ju-hyun lifted Jaeha up with one hand. His bloodshot eyes borrowed from the crow. He stepped out from the smoke. Lee Seola saw him and happily exclaimed. Boss, but that bastard was extremely surprised and stammered. What the hell? The subordinates behind were stunned by the aura Ju-hyun released. What? Is it Seo Ju-hyun? Seo Ju-hyun expressionlessly raised his hand in front of the crowd and warned, Are you guys ready? I'll feed you all to crows. The terrified bastards ran away screaming incessantly. Help! As a result, Ju-hyun's group of 3 returned safely that same night. Ju-hyun thought, even though we had activated the holy relic for defense, they could still bypass the defense over and over again and continue to attack. Because as soon as I see a disadvantage I will use the crow to swallow them in my head, so Ju-hyun already has a plan for the future. But the repetition made the crow grumble, because the holy relics that had to be swallowed were completely evil and the crow did not find them tasty. He grumbled helplessly. After returning from the cave with Ju-hyun's room in ruins, this is something I'll probably consider in the future. Looking at the mess in front of him, Seo Ju-hyun sighed. It's good to be back, but this place is still a mess. Jaeha was startled and covered up. It was still the same as before the attack. I guess I said I wanted to check out today. Do these people think it's easy to get VIPs like us? He questioned. Jaeha gave his opinion. Probably because they keep getting attacked because of VIPs like us. Ju-hyun didn't bother to reply. I don't like them. Suddenly someone came into the room, attracting all 3 people to turn to look at that person and exclaim. It seems I came at the right time. The voice that suddenly rang out was Irene Hilton. Ju-hyun called out in surprise. Irene. Irene Hilton asked worriedly. Is everyone okay? Yes. But half the team is already out. Hearing that, Irene Hilton secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Good. I heard that the hotel was attacked, so I was very worried. Irene Hilton said enthusiastically, if you need a new place to stay, you can always come to one of our villas. Seo Ju-hyun replied with some concern. This. Finally, he turned to Irene and sincerely thanked her. Thank you, but it's dangerous to do so because it's so close. I don't want to drag you into danger. Suddenly Irene Hilton thought of a solution and spoke up. If he was so worried, he could go to the safest place. Wouldn't that be okay? Jaeha behind him laughed heartily. Ju-hyun glanced behind him in annoyance and replied to Irene. If that's what she wanted. At the same time, he silently cursed Jaeha. This bastard. Seo Ju-hyun decided to agree. Okay. Irene praised. Wow. Good decision. Lee Seo said briskly. I'll go pack. Ju-hyun agreed. Okay. Let's do it together to pack quickly. Oh okay. Ju-hyun. Seo agreed. You must have heard the rumors. I was helping my parents. I heard something from them. Suddenly Irene Hilton spoke worriedly. Seo Ju-hyun suddenly stopped listening to her. I heard something from them. At the Hilton Villa, Irene announced. Once they arrived, Jaeha looked at the luxurious villa and exclaimed. As expected. This place is impressive. How long has it been since we stayed in such a luxurious place? There were also many bodyguards in the house. Irene asked. It looked like a luxury hotel room, right? Jaeha was still amazed. How could the previous place compare? Jaeha looked around the building. Irene walked ahead and led the way. Seeing his excited expression, Ju Hyun reminded him, this kid. The butler standing at the bottom of the stairs respectfully announced. The room is ready. May we show them to their room? Madam. Irene replied politely. Thank you. Go ahead. In the building, SEO Ju Hyun suggested. Please elaborate on what you just said. Irene froze for a moment before asking. Why? Ju Hyun put her hands in her pockets and repeated. She said Pandora was planning to hold an exhibition. I hadn't asked for details because I had to pack first, he explained. It was then that Irene remembered. Oh, right. She began to tell the story. Some of my parents' acquaintances were in the arts. I had heard from them. Seo Ju Hyun looked thoughtfully at Irene and listened attentively to every word she said. They said that the exhibition was going to be held at the largest gallery in New York. Many artists, both new and famous, were attending. But the director of that art museum is on Pandora's side, so it can be understood that this exhibition is actually organized by Pandora. Irene expressed her thoughts. She calmly stated her opinion, since this information is related to Pandora, I wanted to tell you when we met. Now that I've said it, I think it's probably not that important. Ju Hyun retorted. No, thank you for telling me. Seo Ju Hyun also gave his opinion. Those bastards' biggest goal right now is to steal my secret holy relics. Why are they suddenly holding an exhibition? This is very suspicious. He was worried. I'm sure they had a reason for holding the exhibition. The situation was like that. Suddenly Jae-ha walked in and shouted. Boss, the holy relics were supposed to be restored today. I think it won't be in time because of the attacks. He turned to Ju Hyun, who was standing by the door, and said. Suddenly a thought flashed through Ju Hyun's mind. That's right. A restorer. Jae-ha was confused. What? What is boss saying? What if I'm a restorer? Ju Hyun expressed what he had just thought of. Pandora had also used a lot of the holy relics to attack us. If we want to use them again, we have to restore the holy relics. Ju Hyun was pleased that his thinking was on the right track, but they didn't have enough manpower to restore all of that. Irene successfully received the information Ju Hyun conveyed. I see. This is a research. Anyway, seeing as they're trying to gather artisans by holding an exhibition, I guess there might be someone with the ability to restore the holy relic, he said. Jae-ha on the other hand was slowly digesting what Ju Hyun had shared. He frowned. What? Pandora was holding an exhibition? Seo Ju Hyun confirmed? Yeah, on the surface. I think you're right. This makes sense given their current situation. Irene agreed, but Ju Hyun was still careful to remind her. We still need to consider it carefully to be sure. Jae-ha angrily clenched his fists and growled. Holding an exhibition after attacking our base. They must be having fun. Ju Hyun didn't answer but just glanced at him. Jae-ha suddenly realized when Ju Hyun suggested. Yeah, that's right, we should make a little mess too. Should we hold an exhibition next to them? Ju Hyun excitedly asked, making him jump and exclaim. What? Seo Ju Hyun crossed his arms and wondered. Why are you so surprised? Jae-ha couldn't help but calmly explain. Why am I not surprised? Is boss serious? Ju Hyun agreed with his own opinion and pulled Jae-ha to join. Of course, he wanted to hold an exhibition too, right? Jae-ha was a little hesitant when he suddenly received the invitation. That's right. But holding an exhibition is no small matter. Seo Ju Hyun replied nonchalantly, what's so difficult about it? Rent? I'll pay it. When can I spend money? Of course I can spend it at times like this. Of course he was the one who had to find the artwork for the exhibition. Jae-ha yelled in anger. That's right. Artwork. Job 985467882. Jae-ha slowly analyzed the difficulty. If we are going to organize it, we have to give me time to prepare. We have to prepare well. Boss thinks we can turn the exhibition into a night show. Seo Ju Hyun still looked very calm and suspicious. So you want to organize the exhibition perfectly? Jae-ha quickly confirmed. Yes. That's exactly it. Ju Hyun's hand suddenly approached Jae-ha's shoulder. Ju Hyun said, as the saying goes. This world is not perfect. Seo Ju Hyun's gloomy face gradually approached. Irene, who was watching from the side, could only smile wryly at the argument. Ju Hyun continued. I just wanted to say, don't worry too much about small things. Just do it. Jae-ha replied. Why is the boss talking so irresponsibly? Suddenly he remembered some of Jae-ha's works and wondered. And don't you have some works too? Jae-ha asked, startled. Ha? How did the boss know? Seo Ju-hyun recalled Jae-ha's time spent drawing and painting. The paintings he drew in his spare time after restoring the holy relic. Did he think I didn't know? Actually, in the past, every time Jae-ha created something, he was always behind him watching. After all, he must have been very tired after restoring the holy relic. He was so focused on drawing that he didn't notice that I was nearby. I know you have a lot of drawings too. Hearing Ju-hyun's words, Jae-ha awkwardly scratched his head. Actually, I was just drawing for fun. Really? It's embarrassing for the boss to see. Actually, I was going to ask you to do something else, it was just a coincidence. Jae-ha screamed as if he was about to explode. I wanted to take back what I said just now. Jae-ha had a headache and didn't know how to handle it. And they were just drawn by me. They're not good enough to exhibit. I have to redraw them all. Seo Ju-hyun encouraged him. You're doing it again. Be confident. You get ready. I will tell you the details after I have carefully studied Pandora's intentions. Ju-hyun's request made Jae-ha cry and return home complaining. My paintings are so bad. Finally at the Hilton mansion, after a while of thinking, Ju-hyun got to work, and after discussing the outline of the plan, I investigated what Pandora was up to. His fingers danced non-stop on the keyboard. After trying to find out, I got quite a lot of information. First, as for the condition of their restorers, I see signs that they are overworked, he commented. And there were many times when the holy relics were damaged because they were too tired. No wonder Pandora wanted to find more restorers like that. So Ju-hyun successfully found the reason for the exhibition. Seo Ju-hyun remembers the artist on Pandora pondering. Another sign is the artist selection process. Artists who want to participate in the exhibition must pass a number of tests. The tests were to determine compatibility with restoring the holy relic. They only selected those who had the potential to become restorers. Seo Ju-hyun assumed that was so. And the benefit of the matter is that this is to ensure that they will not suffer any damage, according to Pandora's plan. Seo Ju-hyun sat on the bed, thinking non-stop. After piecing together the information, I could conclude that my guess was correct. They were holding an exhibition to hire more restorers. He concluded, and Pandora may achieve this goal, while preparing for the exhibition they must have contacted potential restorers. What if they can successfully organize the exhibition? And do they get a return on their investment? He asked the questions. Pandora had to maintain a good image in front of the restorers so that they would join Pandora as a restorer. Seo Ju-hyun had already calculated the plan of those bastards. Pandora. Close the computer. He spoke. I've made up my mind. A smug smile and a cold gaze. Seo Ju-hyun was extremely confident of victory. How could this be allowed to go smoothly? I guarantee the entire exhibition would be in chaos. The morning was crisp and clear. The Hilton estate was bathed in warm sunlight. Luxurious dishes were laid out on the dining table. Jae-ha, Seo-la, and Ju-hyun sat down to eat breakfast. Seo Ju-hyun opened up and shared the information he had gathered. The investigation results showed that my guess was correct. We can't just let the exhibition go ahead. I stayed up late last night to investigate. I was so tired. Biting the bread in his mouth, Jae-ha asked worriedly. Boss said he wouldn't let it go. Was he really planning to hold an exhibition next to them? Do you want it? Seo Ju-hyun suddenly asked Jae-ha's opinion. He replied calmly. If you don't want to, I'll find another way to ruin the exhibition. The whole dining room echoed with Ju-hyun's plan. This wasn't the only way to retaliate. There were other ways to cause trouble anyway. He looked up at Jae-ha expectantly. I just thought this would be the most fun. That's why I suggested it. There must be a lot of bastards who are unhappy with you at the exhibition. Seo Ju-hyun speculated. I'm sure that among the Pandora bastards who came there was Jang Richard's assistant. Jae-ha, who had not yet fully recovered his composure, replied. I guess so too. As a side note, Jang Richard was the artist who stole Jae-ha's paintings to gain fame, making him a criminal and a fraud. Ju-hyun's sudden absence made Jae-ha panic and run away, and he was also confident about his painting, right? Even though you say they're inferior and embarrassed to exhibit them, I know you're just saying it out of habit, Ju-hyun affirmed. Jae-ha suddenly remembered the pile of drawings Ju-hyun had said. If he really thought that way, he wouldn't be so passionate about drawing them. Thinking that even though the painting wasn't finished, the color scheme was good or the layout was beautiful, those were definitely the things he thought and was proud of, Jae-ha was stunned by Seo Ju-hyun's honest sharing. Ju-hyun said hopefully, I hope you will show those pride and honor. Am I right? Jaeha exclaimed in his heart, boss understands me so well, even though boss is not an artist. Ju Hyun leaned back in his chair and continued, I understood those things after meeting Nero and Salieri. I randomly remembered some knowledge because I had to use the holy relic more and more, but can this be considered knowledge? Ju Hyun felt that he had encouraged Jaeha enough and turned to him to probe. What, are you sure you don't want to hold an exhibition? Ju Hyun was quite certain in his mind, looking at his eyes, he was basically convinced, he had to push him a little more. Ju Hyun continued, if you say you will do it, we will definitely do our best to promote you. Jaeha's eyes widened in surprise at Ju Hyun's willingness to spend. I'll also give you a profit if you sell the painting. He smiled at Jaeha's expression and said, now what? Ju Hyun wondered and thought to himself, Jaeha never thought that his paintings could be sold, so this was even more effective. The sudden mention of money made Jaeha's eyes light up with determination. He slammed his fist on the table and agreed, I will do it. In Ju Hyun's mind he was pleased with the completion of the mission, it's done. I will do it. Jaeha's face was a bit worried but he decided to agree, he made the right decision. Ju Hyun praised. He took out a contract and said, sign here. Looking at the contract, Jaeha was stunned. What? Holding the contract in his hand, he was a bit confused. Why was there another contract? Ju Hyun explained, it was about the exhibition. Before doing anything, one should sign the contract. Ju Hyun started to psychologically attack him. He had already decided to do it, so there was no need to hesitate to sign the contract, right? At the moment Jaeha was full of motivation. After I convinced him to hold the exhibition, I presented him with a contract that made him reconsider canceling the exhibition, Ju Hyun said. He will wonder why I did that, but he will thank me later, he explained his actions. Not long after that. That contract is really necessary. At Ju Hyun's house, Jaeha screamed, boss. Looking at Jaeha's flustered expression, Ju Hyun wondered what all the fuss was about. Jaeha's eyes were pleading, please cancel it, I won't hold the exhibition. Ju Hyun wondered, why? Jaeha was speechless. Finally he was in a bad mood and said the situation out loud, because I was not confident in my ability, I didn't think I could finish on time, and I had no ideas either. Jaeha clasped his hands and begged, his eyes looking like they were about to say something, instead I will try to prepare for the next exhibition. In his heart, Ju Hyun thought to himself, I knew you would. Ju Hyun had long known Jaeha's secret mood, his mood kept changing erratically. Jaeha could be in a state of, I'm a genius, but he could also be in the opposite state, no I'm really incompetent. Ju Hyun thought helplessly, he could be extremely confident at one point and lose all that confidence in the blink of an eye. However, Ju Hyun still held Jaeha in high regard in his mind, but that did not affect his ability, even though his drawings were considered poor. It was actually not that bad, he just needed to control himself and would be able to hold a good exhibition. Back in reality, Ju Hyun's living room, Ju Hyun looked up and replied without any emotion, is that so? He showed the signed contract in front of him to intimidate him further, so what should he do? He had already signed the contract. I listened to you so I paid the rent. Hearing Ju Hyun's words just made Jaeha extremely panic. Then what? So fast. Jaeha's body felt drained of strength from Ju Hyun's words. If he cancelled the contract, then what about the damage caused by it? Would he be responsible? His face looked at Jaeha with satisfaction as he continuously uttered threats. There's still time, so instead of giving up, you should try your best. Ju Hyun had long calculated in his heart that there must be a contract here to force him to continue preparing for the exhibition. It was to ensure that he wouldn't give up due to lack of confidence. In the end, Jaeha had to compromise dejectedly. I knew it. Ju Hyun had successfully achieved his goal and was happy. I knew signing the contract was the right decision. Seemingly unable to escape responsibility, Jaeha was so sad that he couldn't stand up straight and turned around to leave. Irene Hilton looked at Jaeha's expression and was worried, wondering if he was okay. It seemed like he was having a hard time. Couldn't he do the next exhibition? Ju Hyun, who had always planned to help, spoke up to explain and dispel her worries. I'll let him do it first. If something bad happens, I'll postpone it. It's very possible that he's not confident enough right now. In situations like this, it's best to give him more work. Ju Hyun suddenly remembered something and exclaimed. Oh right. Nero, come out. Following Ju Hyun's words, Nero's relic gradually appeared. He started asking Neros for help. Give Jaeha a hand, he's an artist too, surely they can work together and no one is more confident than him. Neros received compliments and laughed loudly, of course, I always love my works, of course they must receive my affection. Seeing Nero's smug attitude, Ju Hyun could only close his eyes and let it go, don't be too harsh on him. Nero laughed loudly and agreed, okay. In the room, Jaeha was sitting sketching a drawing. In less than a few minutes the drawing was crumpled by his hands. The face was extremely angry, gritting teeth, not like this, not good, like this is not good, it has to be more lively. Nero's relic had appeared behind him at some point. Looking at Jaeha's attitude, he couldn't help but feel sad. How pitiful, he seemed to be having difficulty composing. Suddenly Jaeha turned around and found Neros behind him. He impatiently asked, "What the hell, Neros?" He replied, "Yes, the owner asked me to help you." Jaeha was startled and asked hesitantly, "Boss, thanks, but I don't think you can help." "Because I'm the one who has to compose, or are you planning to do some random things here?" Jaeha expressed his worried thoughts. Suddenly Nero's body burst into flames and he shouted, "No, I can do much better than that." Jaeha suddenly reminded him in panic, "You scared me. Are you having trouble finding inspiration? In cases like this, other artists' work can be helpful," Nero's relic happily offered. His eyes were so excited that they squinted, his voice was a bit harsh, "I will show you my work, then the fire of inspiration and you will burn. Hey, take your pick, poetry, songs, architectural design, which one do you want to see?" Jaeha was confused by Nero's relic's enthusiasm. "I'm fine, what are these?" Nero's body was burning more and more, he was almost reaching the peak of the explosion, burning the flames of inspiration. Jaeha was about to fall into madness again, warning, "Stop, put out the fire." "Are you going to burn all my works?" Jaeha questioned, but Nero's relic awkwardly laughed it off. Anubis and Set suddenly appeared in the room. Anubis and Set were curious, "What's going on? Are you guys fighting?" Nero was stunned, "Fighting, what's going on?" Under Anubis and Set's doubtful eyes, Nero's hurriedly explained, "This young artist is having trouble finding inspiration to create, I'm just helping him." Suddenly Anubis and Set transformed into their giant forms and exclaimed, "Oh, you need a sample, how interesting." A paper man with musical instruments slowly appeared in a burning state. Jaeha became more and more panicked and shouted, "It's broken, it's all broken, be careful, it's my painting." He was sweating and nervously looked at the people rioting in the room. The paper man said in a high-pitched voice, "You guys don't have the most necessary thing, good music is the source of inspiration." After saying that, the paper man took out his violin and started playing it enthusiastically. "I will sing a song for you. You will be inspired after listening." The piercing sound seemed to be unbearable for Jaeha. He was fuming with helplessness. "My ears, someone save me." In the end, no one could save the poor boy. Jaeha fainted in the middle of the three spirit beasts. The paper man stopped his music and cursed. "Damn it, he fainted." Seo Juhyun and the rope were both scared and looked at the scene, fed up and blaming. "What are you guys doing? I said I was helping him, what are you guys doing? Puppies, why are you guys making a mess here too? The ceiling is cracked, go do your own thing," Juhyun said impatiently. Anubis and Set quickly compromised. "Yes." Glancing at the messy holy relics scattered all over the room, Seo Juhyun continued to question. "And you guys, why are you here?" The objects quickly replied that we were going to help the restorer a little. He healed us so well that we decided to repay him a little. How can we help? Just ask. The holy relic spirit seemed to be very worried about Jaeha's condition as well. Anubis gently spoke up for the holy relics. These holy relics were all restored by him, so they couldn't just sit idly by and not help. Really, I suddenly see that the holy relic is also very friendly to humans. It seems that he did a good job. Jaeha still hasn't recovered from his coma and Seo Juhyun praised his hard work. Finally, he softly asked, "Okay, if you guys want to help, that's good, but be careful, the human body is quite weak, you guys have to be gentle, especially with him." Anubis suddenly remembered, "That's right, I kept forgetting." Set frowned uncomfortably, "How troublesome." Nero Relic smiled and calmed down, "I was just too excited, when I wake up I will gently inspire him." Seo Juhyun warned with a headache, "No, stop playing with your fire, it makes me feel uncomfortable." "It's just an illustration." Nero was upset. "I don't think so," Juhyun retorted. On the ground Jaeha's eyes gradually regained consciousness, his mouth making groaning sounds. Then he panicked and sat up, stammering, asking, "What happened?" Nero informed him that he was awake. On one side, the holy relic suddenly spoke, "Humans, we came here to help." Jaeha opened his mouth in surprise. "Why are there more the holy relics now?" So Seo Juhyun in the room finally got angry? Boss came at the right time, please take them away, I don't know why they're like this." Juhyun replied, "I asked them to come help you." Jaeha suddenly stopped and was confused. "Boss told them to come," Juhyun corrected, "not all of them. The holy relics like you, why don't you let them help?" Seo Juhyun suggested. On the contrary, Jaeha lost his temper and growled, "I can't do it while they are here." As a result, I had to take all of the holy relics out of Jaeha's studio, even though they meant well, it seemed like they were only causing trouble instead of helping him. "I feel sorry," So Juhyun reported. Through his story, I learned that after the chaos he finally got some inspiration and painted some nice pictures. Anyway, my goal was achieved. I peeked and saw that those paintings were great, he was just lacking confidence. "Looks like we can successfully hold the exhibition, those Pandora bastards, here we come." So Juhyun's mood was full of excitement and anticipation. Knowing that Jaeha had regained his confidence and was painting, So Juhyun was happy and thought to himself, with everyone's support, Jaeha found inspiration and started painting again. Fingers flying over the keyboard, Ju Hyun continued to think, I'm also busy preparing for the exhibition, there's more to do than I thought, so Ju Hyun leaned back on the pillow, his eyes focused on the computer screen, thinking to himself, finding the exhibition location, then making the exhibition catalog, and promoting other works of art. The worries in his head did not decrease, but instead increased significantly. Ju Hyun and the others were also busy, at the same time on the other side. Seola was busy exchanging information with the customer over the phone. It was me, I contacted you last time. Julian Miller wrote and edited the information on the papers, his face wrinkled with tension. As he wrote he kept complaining, damn, my head hurts. But thanks to his best efforts, the exhibition will soon be open to newcomers like us. Perhaps this exhibition will be a great success, he said excitedly. Looking at the square where the exhibition was being held, So Ju Hyun thought to himself, even though compared to those Pandora bastards, our exhibition was smaller in scale, but thinking about being held right next to them was refreshing. After calculating silently, in the room he smiled sinisterly to calculate, I can go to them and make a big mess. Seeing So Ju Hyun's dangerous appearance, Yoo Jae-ha spoke up to remind him, don't think of crazy ideas anymore. Then he muttered, I also have to open an exhibition. At the exhibition building, Ju Hyun reported the situation. The moment Jae-ha was full of motivation after being persuaded by me to hold the exhibition. There was a small problem. Yoo Jae-ha was being shown everywhere on TV, happy and serious. He was asked by a reporter, did you encounter any difficulties while preparing for the exhibition? Yoo Jae-ha smiled and replied, actually I didn't have much trouble at Pandora Company. Some young men were watching the news on their iPads and stroking their chins thoughtfully. Perhaps Ju Hyun had also guessed the mood of Pandora's group when they heard the news. Those scoundrels were increasingly attacking us. Remembering the incident that had happened the last time, thoughts flashed through his mind, perhaps because after that time their relics were not restored well, so they had been quiet for a while, now they were challenging each other again. Seo Ju Hyun was in his mansion with the words echoing in his head. Luckily they didn't find the location of Hilton's mansion, so we were still safe there. The only place where we had more work to do was at the grave group. Irene Hilton and Ju Hyun entered the room. The two of them stared at the picture Jae-ha had just finished drawing. Then looked at Jae-ha who was snoring on the sofa next to him. Ju Hyun and Irene Hilton looked at each other and smiled. Ju Hyun thought to himself, luckily they didn't find Hilton's mansion, so we're still safe there. At a certain building, the first day of the exhibition opening. Ju Hyun hummed a tune in his mouth while adjusting his tie. He was wearing a very neat red suit today, when suddenly an admiring voice rang out. A flattering holy relic said, Master, you look so handsome, you are the best, you are the best, why are you dressed so formally, which street is lit up? Ju Hyun replied, I'll go to Jae-ha's exhibition, let's see, what suits you? The holy relic chain listened to that and asked, can I go too, really? After being given a red bow, the holy relic necklace squealed in admiration. Ju Hyun thought it wouldn't like it, he comforted it saying, I'm sorry but it's the best I could find. The holy relic string was extremely excited and replied, excellent, wonderful. Lee Seola entered the room and said, boss, we're ready. Ju Hyun replied, okay, I'll be right out. Outside the room, Julian Miller, Ilya, and Park Kyung-ju were waiting. Seeing him come out, Ilya said, you're finally here, shall we go? Ju Hyun asked again, we should go early, after all the organizers shouldn't be late. Then he said, it's been a while since I've seen everyone dressed up. Ilya replied, yes, I feel a little embarrassed wearing this. Suddenly Ju Hyun said, right, wait a minute, where is our main character Jae-ha? Ilya was curious, oh yeah, where is he? Kyung-ju said, I haven't seen him today either. Lee Seola turned her head and thought, maybe he went back to his room, I'll go look for him. Julian Miller looked extremely depressed for a long time, oh my god, let's go find him. Lee Seola opened the door and entered the room, her face immediately filled with shock. Looking at Yoo Jae-ha sitting curled up in the corner of the room, Seola walked up and wondered, what are you doing here? We're about to leave, is something wrong? Yoo Jae-ha turned back with dark eyes, wanting to say something but stopped, it was nothing. A second later, he suddenly became panicked and spoke his mind, I'm so worried, I don't want to go at all. Hearing that Seola was surprised and exclaimed, what? Just as Ju Hyun was heading towards Jae-ha, seeing him he secretly exclaimed happily, oh, there he is. Seola turned to look at him and expressed the situation, the thing is, it seems like he was worrying too much. After hearing that, Ju Hyun slowly scolded lovingly, this scoundrel, you have to do what you have to do. Before he finished speaking, Jae-ha's body was tightly wrapped by the holy relic rope. Having settled things, Ju Hyun turned around and walked out, saying, okay, let's go, don't be afraid, everything will be fine. The holy relic thread also slowly followed behind. Jae-ha shouted loudly, how can you be so sure? I'm not going anywhere. Seo Ju Hyun threw some pills into Jae-ha's mouth and said, if you're so worried, take some pills to calm down. This medicine is called Chong Shimwa. In Korea it is a medicine that helps people calm down. Yoo Jae-ha swallowed the pills and then coughed violently. Seeing that, Lee Seola asked if he would be okay. Seo Ju Hyun's group went to a tall building. This was where the exhibition was taking place. In a gallery full of paintings, Ju Hyun said, "See, the exhibition is so great, you don't have to worry about anything." CEO Ju Hyun said, "Great, this is just the beginning, let's do our best." He continued, "Let the guests in." An employee immediately replied, "Understood." Ju Hyun then turned around and said, "Get yourself together and go greet the guests, I'll release you." After he finished speaking, the rope of the holy relic immediately loosened and released Jae-ha. At this moment, his expression was still very frightened, his face was covered in sweat. After walking for a while, he turned around and smiled, quickly introducing each person. They were all guests who had come to see his works for the first time. This was a very meaningful moment, so he welcomed them warmly. Looking at the empty hall without a single person, Ju Hyun was a bit embarrassed and mumbled something. On one side, Jae-ha sobbed and complained. No one is coming. Ju Hyun was startled and cursed in his heart. Damn it, why is it like this? He was skeptical, impossible, there were so many people booking tickets online, or were they late? Jae-ha said with a trembling voice, "I didn't want to come because I knew things would turn out like this." His condition was getting worse, Ilya thought worriedly. Damn, he was already in a bad mood. Now he's like this again. Ilya walked over to him and patted his shoulder to comfort him. Come on, don't lose your patience. I'm sure they'll come. They're probably having breakfast in preparation for coming here. Seeing the emotional turmoil before his eyes, why did Ju Hyun fall into deep thought, to the point where Ilya had to comfort Jae-ha? Maybe things were really bad. Normally, he would tease him. Julian Miller then walked up to Ju Hyun and whispered, "We need to talk. Something must be wrong." "You two aren't going anywhere else," Ju Hyun said. "So you thought the same as me?" Julian Miller replied. "Yes, I expected this." He continued. It seemed like the Pandoras were up to something. Ju Hyun stroked his chin and made a sound of approval. Then he said, "Okay, I'll stop by their exhibition." Ilya heard that and quickly said, "Ah, I'll come too." The four of them, Ju Hyun, Ilya, Julian Miller, and Lee Seo-ah, walked out of the building and headed towards Pandora. Ju Hyun spoke first, to see what they were planning. Looking at Pandora, Ju Hyun thought, did they do this? It must be so. In the building opposite, people were coming and going, customers were coming and going busily.